Chapter 151. After school in the afternoon, she sent a message to Song Yanqing and asked him to meet up at night. He agreed. Unexpectedly, when she got home, Qiao Jin saw Qiao Fei crying while watching Fan Jin's movie. But Fan Jin's movie was a comedy. She couldn't help but ask, "Fei Fei, why are you crying?" When Qiao Fei saw that she had come home from school, she couldn't help but say sadly, "You don't understand. Mom's favorite idol suddenly announced her retirement from the entertainment industry today." It was a wake-up call. Why did she take it so hard? Qiao Jin, things couldn't be so coincidental. Clearly, this idol was Fan Jin. She didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Fan Jin is your idol? Qiao Fei was more than 10 years older than Fan Jin. Why not? Qiao Fei complained as she cried. Nowadays, only her dramas are worth watching. This girl is pretty and kind. She even donated half of her assets after quitting the entertainment industry. Where else can you find such a good idol? Why is she quitting the entertainment industry so suddenly? There wasn't any news about it before. Qiao Fei thought of another possibility and said hesitantly, could it be that she got married? 30 years old wasn't considered old in the entertainment industry. More than half of the female celebrities got married later. However, Fan Jin was already 30 years old. This could be a reason. Qiao Jin's interest was piqued and he deliberately said, maybe he was hurt by love. Impossible. However, Qiao Fei was unusually agitated. I read all the news in the fan circle and didn't find any traces of Fan Jin being with a man. She doesn't even have a male dog. It's unlikely that she's married. How could she be hurt in love? Unless her family is urging her to go on a blind date. Qiao Fei said sternly, Jin, don't spread rumors about my idol. Qiao Jin, she found it funny but didn't care about it. She said, I'm going out tonight. I won't be eating at home. I have an appointment with Song Yanqing. Qiao Fei, she choked. Not long ago, Song Yanqing was still an unattainable young master in Qiao Fei's heart. Qiao Fei didn't expect him to fall from his pedestal and be easily asked out by his daughter. No, her daughter was also a good person. How could he think of Jin like that? Qiao Fei's cheeks were a little hot, and he looked a little embarrassed. Then you can go. Their child was already 20 years old. Even if something really happened, as parents, they would be happy to see it happen. Moreover, looking at Qiao Jin's calm appearance, Qiao Fei didn't pay too much attention to it. Qiao Jin packed up his things and walked out of the door in a carefree manner. She had asked Song Yanqing out today for no other reason than to confirm the items on Song Yanqing's body. For this reason, she had specially prepared a gift. Qiao Jin also specifically stated that Song Yanqing wouldn't bring Ah Bing along. He only asked Ah Bing to watch Song Yanqing from afar. Ah Bing was very worried. On the contrary, Qiao Jin said directly, if anything happens to your young master, I'll pay for his life, okay? Song Yanqing's life was saved by Qiao Jin. How could he not trust Qiao Jin now? To be honest, Ah Bing might not be as useful as Qiao Jin. Thinking of this, Ah Bing could only shut up resentfully. Unexpectedly, Qiao Jin only took Song Yanqing in an ordinary taxi. It was the first time Song Yanqing had taken a taxi. He felt it was new, but he didn't expect Qiao Jin to take him to a very remote place. Chapter 152. There were construction sites all around, so there weren't many people coming out at night. Qiao Jin brought Song Yanqing out of the car. Standing in such an environment, Song Yanqing felt a little uneasy. He didn't quite understand why Qiao Jin brought him here. After getting out of the car, Qiao Jin stood beside an abandoned construction site building with him. Under the dim light, he explained to him, Mr. Song, do you believe that people's beliefs can sometimes push them to do things they can't do? Song Yanqing's eyes flashed. You don't have to be so restrained. We're friends now. You can just call me Yanqing. Qiao Jin nodded and changed his words. Yanqing, let's continue our conversation. Song Yanqing found it interesting and smiled slowly. In such an environment, his face was as handsome as a god's, and his temperament was still unattainable. Instead, it dyed the place with a different kind of light. I believe. His voice was low and gentle like a stream. I've seen similar things before. When people are at their limits, they can indeed burst out with incredible potential. Qiao Jin looked at him and suddenly said, "It's not the same." He said, "How is it different?" Qiao Jin said, "No matter how much belief a person has, it doesn't conflict with their limits. It's just that they usually limit us. At the critical moment, some people can burst out with unparalleled potential. But some things can't be done even with belief. According to modern words, it's against common sense. Just like how the sky will rain, humans will grow old, get sick, and die. This is the law of nature. It's irreversible and can't be violated. Do you think people won't die just because they won't die?" Song Yanqing nodded slowly. "You're right, but you saved me from death once. That involves karma. It doesn't conflict with belief that your life isn't meant to end. Just like how I saved you now, you'll still die of old age in the future, and so will I. It's the same principle." Song Yanqing was a little surprised. His temperament always gave him the illusion that he had lived for a long time. Qiao Jin suddenly smiled and said, "You'll know in a moment. I'm going to hide at the side. You just stand here and listen to my arrangements." Although Song Yanqing was a little surprised, he did not doubt her and immediately nodded. He trusted Qiao Jin so much that he didn't even realize it himself. Qiao Jin retreated and disappeared into the darkness. Perhaps he had entered the abandoned building. Song Yanqing was still a little confused, not knowing what she was going to do or why she left him in this place. This was an abandoned construction site, so the surroundings were naturally desolate. Yi was also standing far away and looking at them. When he saw Qiao Jin leaving Song Yanqing alone there, he immediately became anxious. Young master coming here was already considered a shocking matter, but Qiao Jin actually left him alone. However, thinking of the young master and Qiao Jin's orders, Zhong became restless but didn't dare to rush over. Suddenly, footsteps could be heard from the other side of the construction site. Song Yanqing subconsciously looked over. A man in an ordinary t-shirt walked over. He was a little dispirited. He was drunk and his footsteps were a little staggered. This road was only dimly lit and not many people dared to walk on it. When the man came over and saw Song Yanqing standing there, his eyes immediately stared straight at him. Song Yanqing stood there in a coat. He was tall and handsome. One look and one could tell that he was extraordinarily handsome. He was not an ordinary person. The drunkard just stood there with his eyes staring straight. He looked very scary. An ordinary person would probably run away. Song Yanqing was a little surprised. But when he looked at the drunkard, his eyes were dark and there was no panic. Chapter 153. Song Yanqing, I want to know, just how firm is your conviction? A pitiful and ethereal voice rang out, echoing in Song Yanqing's ears. There was a moist feeling, causing him to subconsciously tap his earlobe. Conviction, how firm is it? He pursed his lips, his mind spinning rapidly, trying to figure out Qiao Jin's purpose. Soon, another shadow appeared in front of him, not allowing him to think more. In the gloomy, empty, and depressing construction site, just standing here required more courage, not to mention the Rakshasa realm's devils that suddenly appeared in front of him. Things didn't change at all, unlike in the past, when the world was grey. Just like that, the devil appeared out of nowhere. They howled one by one, descending on this land, surrounding Song Yanqing. The dust stirred up by their wings turned into dust that filled the sky. This was an extremely polluted sight. What was different from before was that there was actually some excitement in their eyes. They seemed to want to get closer to Song Yanqing, with an urge to try. Only the leader of the devils stood at the back, coldly looking at Song Yanqing. Song Yanqing's reaction was fast. Now seeing the expression of the devils, he realized something was different. In the past, when these devils looked at him, they would show greedy and covetous eyes, but they wouldn't get close to him. But now, there was a hint of crazy excitement on their faces. It was a different kind of excitement from before. Something had changed, they seemed to want to touch him. They want your soul. Qiao Jin's ethereal voice sounded again, without sadness or joy, as if it was talking about a normal thing. I removed the protection around you in advance. The Rakshasa realm's devils will sense that the protective shell on your body is gone. They will do everything they can to take your soul. Your soul is gone, Your body will also die, I won't save you. Song Yanqing, you have to use your conviction to resist them, even if you don't know what they are. If you fail, you will die. Your soul will be dragged into the Rakshasa realm, no one in this world can save you. Don't blame me. You can't escape today's tribulation, and you won't be able to escape in the future. Normally, these words would sound cold enough. Qiao Jin would not save him. This was contrary to Song Yanqing's belief in coming here. There seemed to be a problem with his judgment. However, he only remained silent. He didn't panic, nor did he become impatient. Instead, he simply looked at the group of devils before him with a pair of dark eyes. They approached Song Yanqing, saliva dripping from the corners of their mouths. When the saliva landed on the ground, it was like a fierce tongue of fire, emitting a burst of steam. It was the trace of something that had been burned and turned into mist. If it happened to a human, it actually made people shudder with fear. Song Yanqing didn't even blink. Just like when facing any other situation, he was calm and reserved. It was impossible to tell that he was about to face death. The surroundings were a construction site. It looked dark, but ordinary people couldn't see it. At this time, there seemed to be a kind of sticky air flowing nearby, making people uncomfortable and unable to breathe. The group of devils approached Song Yanqing step by step. Seeing that Song Yanqing wasn't afraid at all, he even seemed to be interested. Only the tallest devil flapped his wings and stood in the air, his red eyes coldly looking at Song Yanqing. After a while, a trace of viciousness flashed through his eyes. Chapter 154. Song Yanqing had faced this group of demons since he was a child. No matter how ugly they were, he had seen them for so many years. Even if they were a little disgusting, he could still endure it. Song Yanqing did not know what it would feel like to take his soul, but it probably would not feel good. He closed his eyes and thought of all the things from the past. Qiao Jin's words were definitely not without reason. As he was thinking, an indescribable pain suddenly came from the depths of his heart. He gave a muffled groan and his body was thrown back. His spine slammed straight into the wall, bringing him a sharp pain. However, this could not compare to the sudden pain. He felt like something was being forcibly peeled away, but his entire body could not sense the source of the pain. It was like something was tearing him apart. Something was trying to tear him to pieces bit by bit. His handsome face instantly paled and a thin layer of sweat seeped out. The pain of having one's soul being pulled away was extreme. This kind of pain could not be described with words. Perhaps an ordinary person would have already begun to howl in pain. Song Yanqing only pursed his lips, his fingers tightly gripping the wall behind him. The stone of the wall had not yet been completely finished. His fingers dug deeply into it, causing dust to fall. At this time, Song Yanqing did not care about getting dirty. Not only was he in pain, his head was also beginning to feel dizzy. It was like with that pull, a piece of his consciousness was also being pulled out. This was a torment that ordinary people could not endure. Despite the pain, his eyes were still bright and resplendent as he looked at the demons, like the most beautiful light in the world. He could not hear the demons' laughter, but from the sinister smiles on their faces, he could roughly imagine how carefree they were at this moment. He even saw a demon general's claw dig into his body. It clearly did not have a physical body, but it was like it had been passed through. He felt a bone-chilling cold. This kind of cold was enough to make one's teeth chatter. He could feel himself growing weaker and weaker. This kind of weakness was not the weakness of his body, but the depression of his consciousness. All of this seemed very long, but in reality, it had only happened for 10-odd seconds. Because of the pain, time always felt exceptionally long. You have to use your own faith. I won't save you. Song Yanqing's muddled consciousness kept thinking about Qiao Jin's words. Qiao Jin would not save him. His soul had been dragged into the Rakshasa realm. He could not save him even if he wanted to. At least that was what he had deduced. He didn't know how firm Qiao Jin's belief was, but he was thinking that he couldn't die here. Sometimes, some thoughts were beyond one's control. After feeling that his consciousness was being stripped away, the thoughts in his mind became tense. He was the pride of the Song family. Even though his life providence had been swapped, causing his body to be extremely weak. He had always displayed his perfect side all these years. He had the smartest mind and would never back down in the face of a problem. Even though he was aware that he was at a complete disadvantage, his obsidian-like eyes were still calm. As his consciousness gradually faded away, his vision gradually became blurry. He only saw that from beginning to end, the tallest demon had not moved at all. He had only been looking at him with a sinister gaze, a strange smile even on his lips. Seeing that Song Yanqing could not hold on any longer, he finally began to move. Chapter 155. As soon as it moved, Song Yanqing immediately felt that the aura around him had become even more suffocating. It was clearly an empty space, but it seemed that all the aura had been stripped away. Qiao Jin said that a person's faith had unlimited potential, but some things that were destined could not be changed. Could his faith make the demons stop their actions? He did not know. He only knew that he could not let himself lose consciousness completely. During the pulling of the soul, if someone saw it, they would see that Song Yanqing's body seemed to refract a strange and enchanting light. It was indestructible and extremely small, like the dust in a firework. It was small enough, but it contained a huge amount of energy. It was this kind of light that was always entwining his body. His pupils were gradually enlarging, and the scene in front of him was blurred. The leading demon was approaching him. When it slowly reached out its huge palm, it clasped Song Yanqing's head. It only needed a gentle move, and they would be able to get what they had been after for so many years. However, he sensed a struggle. Even though the indescribable soul was being stripped away, it was finally firmly pulled by a kind of force, and it could not be completely stripped away. The demon stopped its actions. After a while, it actually spoke again, and it was extremely strange. "You can't do it." It knew what would happen to Song Yanqing. If it was in the past, they would not act so impulsively, but now, in this era 10,000 years later, spiritual psyche masters were not far from being destroyed. It was impossible for him to struggle. Song Yanqing understood. What couldn't he do? There was nothing that couldn't be done. His fate had been swapped, and he had almost died before, but he had been saved. He had been saved from death. Even if Qiao Jin said that he would not save him now, as long as he was not dead, there was still hope, wasn't there? His lips were trembling uncontrollably, but the corners of his mouth widened into a calm arc coupled with his pale cheeks. His expression was calm and charming, forming a huge contrast. The pain of being pulled was still there, but he seemed to be used to it. In the depths of his originally dark abyss-like pupils, a glimmer of light suddenly appeared. A little. Then, it gradually expanded. Hong, a silent vibration spread out, and the light expanded. Song Yanqing's vision was restored, and he saw that the face of the demon in front of him had become even more ferocious. It seemed to be roaring, as if it was shocked. The weak light on his body had gradually disappeared, but it seemed to have melted into his body. He couldn't hear anything around him, and in this silence, he obtained a kind of peace that he had never experienced before. It was as if this was the calmest moment since he was born. There was no sound or movement, but there was not a trace of fear on his face. On the contrary, it was extremely comfortable. The feeling of being pulled gradually subsided, and his body calmed down. If anyone was here, they would be shocked to find that his face was calm and gentle, elegant, holy, and noble. Now, he was emitting the most dazzling light. Without his pale face, he was like a god that didn't belong to the mortal world. Every inch of her body, every strand of hair, was emitting a fatal seduction. She couldn't help but want to get close to him, but she didn't dare to do so in fear, as if it was blasphemy. Qiao Jin, who was hiding in the dark, curled his lips slightly. She guessed right. Song Yanqing was a spiritual psyche master. Chapter 156. They were lured here, but their plan failed. They even caused Song Yanqing to awaken. The demons left in exasperation. When the largest one saw Qiao Jin walk out from the shadows, it almost went berserk. No wonder they felt that Song Yanqing's soul was about to leave. This woman was actually using them. Demons also had consciousness, but this consciousness was targeted at the human world, so it was very difficult for them to sense it, unless they had great power. Xiao Jin saw the demon's expression and waved his hand with a smile. Now she finally understood why the demons of the Rakshasa realm were so obsessed with Song Yanqing. The soul of a spiritualist of speech was definitely very useful to the demons of the Rakshasa realm. Although even she didn't know what it was used for, according to the guidance from birth, it was probably not a good thing for the demons of the Rakshasa realm to obtain the purest soul of a spiritualist of speech. Something like this seemed to have happened 10,000 years ago, but she seemed to have forgotten. Thinking of this, she frowned slightly. This kind of thing shouldn't have happened. She actually only realized now that she might have forgotten something. But now that she thought about it, she seemed to have sensed something. When the time was up, she would remember. She was considered the darling of karma. Although she had to pay the price for some things, at her level, she would also receive some additional hints. Thinking of this, Xiao Jin didn't care too much about this matter. Instead, he looked at Song Yanqing. The demon disappeared, and he slowly opened his eyes. A spiritualist of speech had just awakened, and their bodies were at their weakest. Not only were they weak, but they would also attract some demonized spiritualists. They might not know about spiritualists of speech, but they would be inexplicably attracted here. This wasn't a place to stay for long. Song Yanqing turned to look at Xiao Jin. At this moment, his expression was calm. Compared to before, his sickly aura was slightly less, but that otherworldly aura was even stronger. His cheeks seemed to emit a porcelain-white glow. To be more specific, it was the kind of person who, at first glance, really looked like he came from the god realm. He was clearly noble, but he still had compassion for the human world. A small number of people with evil intentions would hate him to the core, but most people who were infatuated with him would be madly infatuated. Spirit speakers were born with this kind of charm that could make people fall into a trance. Xiao Jin actually didn't really like spirit speakers, because they could predict the future by observing the past, and they always had bad things to say. However, the current Song Yanqing was definitely not at this level. He had just awakened and was an ordinary spiritual reader. He still did not know how to use his abilities. Moreover, Xiao Jin treated him as a friend. Even if he was a spirit speaker, it wouldn't change anything. She saw that Song Yanqing's cheeks were pale, and the traces of sweat were still there. She stepped forward and said softly, "I'm sorry. In order to awaken you, I used the quickest method that could hurt you. It's all right." He lowered his eyes and a gentle smile appeared on his sickly face. "Actually, I knew that you would save me. Even if he couldn't pass this trial and was about to die, Xiao Jin would save him." Xiao Jin blinked. "Are you sure? I said that I wouldn't save you. I'm a person who keeps his word." Song Yanqing revealed a trace of a clear smile. "No, you will save him. You told me that everything in the world has karma. I can see that you are a person who respects karma. I was taken away by the Rakshasa realm's demons, so the karma will be counted on you. I know that you don't want to cause trouble. You just want to test me." Chapter 157. Song Yanqing was really too smart. If she told others that she wouldn't save him, they might believe her. However, he knew from the beginning that Xiao Jin wouldn't leave him in the lurch. Just as he said, Xiao Jin respected karma very much, so he wouldn't take the initiative to cause trouble. If Song Yanqing really died, it would be because of her. In addition, this person's fate had been swapped. It would be very troublesome. Moreover, Song Yanqing was the son of the Song family. If he really died, Xiao Jin wouldn't be able to live a peaceful life in the future. She wasn't too surprised that he guessed it. She only said, "You know that I will save you, so you can completely give up resisting." He stared at her and chuckled. "If I gave up, I wouldn't have come here with you in the first place. Moreover, if I give up, you will give up on me." "I won't." Xiao Jin shook his head. "Even if you don't awaken, your life will still go on. I will do what I promised you. I'm just testing. I set up a formation here to lure out the demons of the Rakshasa world. If it succeeds, you will awaken. If it doesn't, at most, I will spend some effort to save you. As compensation, I will still protect you." Song Yanqing blinked gently. "Awaken? To become a spiritual reader? To be honest, other than the moment of calmness just now, he didn't feel much change in his body. He vaguely felt that something was wrong. Could it be that he became a spiritual reader like the others? Ordinary spiritual readers don't need me to spend so much effort. You are a spiritual reader. Spiritual reader? This word made Song Yanqing feel unfamiliar for a moment, but he had heard Qiao Jin mention it briefly. Young master. Suddenly, a wail sounded. Song Yanqing and Qiao Jin looked up and saw RZE driving over from the other side of the construction site. Young master, where did you go? RZE quickly drove to their side and hurriedly got out of the car. He looked at Song Yanqing and Qiao Jin in shock. What the hell? He had walked around the construction site several times and did not see these two people. Why did they suddenly appear? For a moment, the atheist Ardan thought that the young master and the others had encountered a ghost going around in circles. That was not right. Qiao Jin was so awesome, how could he be hit by a ghost going around in circles? Song Yanqing shook his head slowly. It's nothing. I just walked around this area. You probably didn't see it. Ardan had been feeling uneasy the whole time. Now that the two of them had finally appeared, he heaved a sigh of relief. But then again, the two of them were alone in the middle of the night. However, when he looked at Song Yanqing seriously, he was a little stunned. Song Yanqing noticed Ah Tai's hesitation and asked calmly, Ah Tai, what's wrong? Ah Pei stuttered, no, nothing. I can't say it. It was as if there was a strange change. Young master was clearly still that young master. In the past, young master was gentle and elegant like a noble young master. Why was young master now more and more noble and flawless? That aura was not cold, but made people feel as if he came from the clouds far away and only occasionally descended to the mortal world. Oh, sometimes Qiao Jin would give him such a feeling. If not for his ordinary relationship with Song Yanqing, Ardan would have a strange sense of inferiority at this moment. It was as if he was not qualified to talk to Song Yanqing. Song Yanqing smiled faintly. It was as bright as the moon, and as gentle as the breeze. It was intoxicating. Ardan, young master, don't smile. I'm straight. Chapter 158. Let's go back first. At this moment, Song Yanqing was still a little tired. He didn't know if this tiredness was the after-effect of what had happened just now. He just wanted to rest quickly, and it was long past his resting time. Okay. Zong didn't know why Qiao Jin brought Song Yanqing here for no reason. After getting into the car, Song Yanqing felt a little tired. At this moment, Qiao Jin took the initiative to hold his cheek. You must be weak now. I can help you recover. Lower your head and rest on my lap. Song Yanqing, his whole body was a little stiff. It was mainly because of Qiao Jin's sudden intimate contact. However, when he saw Qiao Jin's bright and serious eyes, he understood that this girl had an involuntary intimacy. She didn't seem to understand the taboos between men and women in modern society, especially when they were in such intimate contact. But the reason was so legitimate that he couldn't resist. However, he was still not used to it. His body was a little stiff. It seemed like little by little, he slowly bent down and rested his head on Qiao Jin's lap. Because it was summer, she was wearing a pair of shorts. A part of her thigh was exposed, and he was pressing on her white and tender leg. He could feel the warmth and softness. The young master, who had always been noble and elegant, was a little helpless at this moment. But soon, Qiao Jin's hand touched his cheek. A wave of soothing warmth passed from her palm. His body was actually gradually recovering. In addition, it was sleeping time. This kind of action made him sleepy. Qiao Jin said in a low voice, I'll tell you why when we go back. He nodded and gradually fell asleep. Zong, who was driving in front, was about to fall out of his eyes. Did you consider that there was another person in the car? He had only lost the young master for 10 minutes. What happened in these 10 minutes? Could it be that the world had already changed in these 10 minutes? The young master had never been so intimate with a woman in his life, even if it was his sister. Moreover, young master usually didn't sleep well when there were people around. Why would he fall asleep right away? His shocked gaze met with Qiao Jin's. The girl's eyes were calm and puzzled. Drive. What are you waiting for? The other, can't you wait any longer? However, he remembered that the young master was already 25 years old and was not young anymore. It was quite rare for him to have someone who was willing to get close to him. Thinking of this, Tong resentfully turned back and started driving his car. When they arrived at the Song family's ancestral home, Song Shiyin saw that they had returned so late. Although Song Shiyin wasn't home, the servant still informed her of the situation at home. She even called to check on them. When they got out of the car, Song Yanqing woke up, but he was a little tired. Yi handed the phone to him. Song Yanqing's voice was a little hoarse. Well, I just went out to do something. Okay, I will. Goodbye. After hanging up the phone, Song Yanqing turned his head and said to Qiao Jin, my dad asked where we went. Qiao Jin thought for a moment. We'll talk about it when the time comes. I'll stay here tonight to talk to you about something. Song Yanqing nodded without hesitation. I have a room here. I'll get someone to make a new bed for you. The other, young master, your reputation and integrity. It's so late at night. If you keep a girl here, the headlines of the capital's high society will be about you tomorrow. Chapter 159. But so what? Dan could not stop Song Yanqing. Besides, there must be a reason why Qiao Jin stayed. Song Yanqing's bedroom on the second floor was not the kind with many rooms, but was specially isolated. All the rooms were his private territory. The living room was very large and connected to the balcony. Other than Dan's resting place, there were no other empty rooms. Qiao Jin was arranged to sleep downstairs. It was not suitable for her to sleep in Dan's room, but because she had to talk to Song Yanqing, Dan was driven away. He was not driven away by Qiao Jin, but by Song Yanqing. With Qiao Jin here tonight, nothing could hurt Song Yanqing. When Dan went to sleep elsewhere, his face was full of resentment. Yes, with Miss Qiao here, he had become unnecessary. Qiao Jin came to the second floor to talk to Song Yanqing. She sat on a chair carved from pear blossom wood and looked very calm. She did not think that it was inappropriate to stay in a man's room in the middle of the night. She just looked at Song Yanqing and said, it's already your rest time. Do you need to sleep and talk about it tomorrow morning? No need. Song Yanqing shook his head slightly. He would not be able to sleep tonight if things were not clear. He sat opposite Qiao Jin. His expression had become calm and composed, and his original tiredness had disappeared. Qiao Jin did not talk nonsense and directly said to Song Yanqing, I told you before that among the spiritual readers, other than the most common wizards, there are also rare array masters and spiritual readers. Because you don't understand, I just explained it briefly. And I never understood why the Rakshasa world followed you. Now I understand. It's because you are a spiritual reader. Song Yanqing's eyes were indifferent, and his true emotions could not be seen in the depths of his eyes. He nodded slowly. What is a spiritual reader? A spiritual reader, Qiao Jin thought back to the past, a spirit speaker is a very rare existence. Do you remember what I told you before you awakened? Humans can't change the laws of nature with their own power, but spirit speakers can. What they said was the rule. What they thought was the truth. The sun, the moon, the blooming of flowers, the passing of spring and the coming of spring. These were all rules that they could change. The strongest spirit speech masters are able to make their words become law. What you say is the truth, what you think is the truth. They can also peer into the past and observe the future. Song Yanqing was amazed by the power of a spirit master of speech, but he also understood that the current him was clearly not at that level. Moreover, Qiao Jin definitely had something that he hadn't said. As expected, Qiao Jin continued, being strong means being bound. Although spirit speakers can make the above things happen, karma is not something that can be easily manipulated. First of all, the existence of spirit speakers is extremely demanding and rare. Even if they awaken, they may not make any progress in their lifetime in order to reach this level. Even if they reach this level, they will have to pay a huge price to go against the heavens. Knowing the truth that has been sealed in the past and being able to peer into the future, they have to pretend that they don't know anything. In other words, the secrets of the heavens cannot be revealed. Spirit speakers seemed powerful, but like her, they had many restrictions. She was able to do as she pleased, but the spirit master of speech had more shackles on his shoulders. They knew the future, and this was a very troublesome matter. If they were not careful, they would do something that would affect the future, and then affect themselves. Chapter 160. In the long river of time that I exist, Qiao Jin said this sentence again. There is only one spirit master of speech who can reach the realm I speak of. Song Yanqing looked up. Who is he? I don't remember. Qiao Jin's tone was very calm. He might have disappeared a long time ago. Song Yanqing nodded and didn't ask about this person. She just smiled and said, I'm a spirit master of speech, but I'm sure that I can't reach the realm you speak of. Of course. If such a powerful spirit master of speech appeared casually, it would be unfair in this world. Qiao Jin continued, as long as you're a spirit master, there's room for improvement. Even a wizard can become extremely powerful. But many people can't find a way to improve in their entire lives. For millions of years, who knows how many people have died on the path of exploration. Qiao Jin. Song Yanqing suddenly looked at her. You're an array master? Qiao Jin nodded. I'm an array master. Song Yanqing wasn't too surprised. So you can tell at a glance that someone has set up a fate-sealing array in my house. Well, it's not a difficult thing. It was even very simple. Song Yanqing still had many questions. She wanted to ask Qiao Jin how he knew so thoroughly. Clearly, her existence was extremely mysterious. But Song Yanqing also understood that even if he asked, Qiao Jin wouldn't say. If she could say it, she would say it all together. You said that everything in this world has karma. This is also the reason why you can't help us completely. Song Yanqing thought and said, if I'm a spirit master of speech and I become stronger, can I solve this matter myself? Qiao Jin nodded. Song Yanqing seemed to see a clear path in front of her. So, you said that spirit masters can improve. What do they need? It's also related to the Rakshasa realm. Qiao Jin was not stingy about this matter. The Rakshasa world is not the same world as ours, but there will always be some things that leak out from their world. Those things are demonic qi. Once it touches a spiritual reader, it will become a demonic spiritual reader. It can even cause ordinary people to become demonic spiritual readers. Kill these people and get the demonized spirit seed. It will allow you to improve, and you can also use it to block the backlash of karma. Song Yanqing said, you said that you can't take the initiative to kill. Demonized spiritual readers are different. Qiao Jin explained in detail, demonized spiritual readers are people with evil intentions. When they are used by demons, their evil intentions will be maximized. This kind of person will not bear any karma. We can choose not to kill them, but to seize the spiritual seed. Otherwise, they will return to the Rakshasa world. The spirit group is currently tracking down the demonized psychic masters. On the surface, the spirit group would hand over the captured demonized psychic masters to the headquarters to be destroyed. However, the spirit group headquarters is also using this power. However, not everyone has the ability to merge with the spirit seed. They will be infected by the demonic qi. The spirit group. This was not the first time Song Yanqing had heard of this. However, the country had long known about this, which was why they had created the spirit group. There were many things involved behind this. Qiao Jin's explanation was very detailed, but she did not reveal much. However, it was enough for Song Yanqing to obtain a lot of information. He had completely seen the existence of another world. This world was about to bring him not fear and the unknown, but a path that would make him stronger. Qiao Jin's hint was also very obvious. She could not help Song Yanqing completely solve the problem, but when Song Yanqing became stronger, he would have the ability to settle this matter himself. Chapter 161. Song Yanqing lowered his eyes and thought for a while before saying, actually, you don't have to tell me this. Qiao Jin could have taken this information for herself. Since the spirit group had directly handed over the captured demonized psychics to the headquarters, It was obvious that many people did not know that the demonized psychic spirit seeds could strengthen themselves. Otherwise, the spirit group would have been in chaos. The more secretive a secret was, the more suitable it was for only a few people to know. Qiao Jin suddenly smiled brightly. Of course, I'm not telling you for free. In fact, I want you to join the spirit group. Song Yanqing raised his eyebrows. Join the spirit group? Qiao Jin nodded. The abilities of a spirit speaker are extraordinary. You don't have to tell them that you're a spirit speaker but a prophet. Just like how they think I have the ability to predict things. You join the spirit group and I'll meet you outside. I believe that you can quickly integrate into the spirit group headquarters. I need you to find out where the demonized psychics that the spirit group has captured over the years are and where the spirit seeds are. Her intentions were obvious. The spirit group had existed for so many years and there were definitely many demonized psychics. This was a huge sum of money for Qiao Jin. Even if the spirit group knew how to obtain the spirit seeds, it was definitely a long-term mission. Who they were providing the spirit seeds to was a clue. Why are you? Song Yanqing wanted to ask why Qiao Jin did not join the spirit group, but he quickly thought of a possibility and smiled. I know why. His father had briefly told him about the spirit group. Although it was a national organization, the forces behind it were complicated. Qiao Jin's identity was just an ordinary daughter. No matter how strong she was, she would still be restricted. Song Yanqing was different. His abilities were special and his identity was also very special. He was more suitable to integrate into the spirit group. Song Yanqing used a descriptive word. You want to take advantage of others. This was because Qiao Jin had mentioned a key point. The spirit seeds were very useful to her. The spirit group obviously had a bunch of them. Robbery was more suitable. I'm not taking advantage of others. Qiao Jin said righteously. The demonic spiritual seed is extremely dangerous. I'm helping them eliminate the danger. This is a good deed. Even karma will recognize it. Song Yanqing, Qiao Jin, I'll give you half. Song Yanqing, she was too generous. If I wasn't forced by life, Qiao Jin said earnestly, I wouldn't be like this. She needed many spirit seeds to deal with the backlash of her survival. Coincidentally, the spirit group was monitoring her. She felt offended, so she had to ask for some compensation. This compensation was the spirit seed from the spirit group's headquarters. However, it would be best if he could take the spirit seed without any bloodshed. If he wanted to take it by force, he would definitely have to fight with other spiritual readers. Unless he offended her, it would be difficult to do so. There was no doubt that there was someone behind the spirit group. She could not calculate the final location of this spirit seed, nor did she have the power to investigate this matter openly. Song Yanqing was the best partner she could work with. He had money, power, and now he had abilities. It just so happened that she did not know what to do when she came to this world. Now, she had a goal. Song Yanqing was silent for a while and suddenly said, Are you going to take an exam soon? Qiao Jin, they were talking so nicely. Why did he mention such a depressing thing? Qiao Jin was a little hesitant. I think so, he had heard the teacher mention it last time. The professional classes were actually okay, but their exam was a comprehensive evaluation, which naturally included the usual basic classes. Chapter 162. Study hard first. I'll arrange these things. He smiled helplessly. You've told me so many things. I need some time to digest them before I can give you the right answer, right? Yes. Qiao Jin also understood that he needed time to think and digest. She had indeed told him too many things in one breath tonight. She stood up and said to him naturally, Go to bed early. Song Yanqing's eyebrows and eyes overflowed with a gentle smile at this time. Okay, good night. Good night. Qiao Jin went downstairs to rest. Song Yanqing watched her leave, and his eyes became deeper and deeper. She seemed to have a card up her sleeve, but in some things, she seemed to be a simple little girl. It could also be that she didn't care because of her powerful strength. It was very interesting. He had lived for 25 years, and now he felt that Qiao Jin was worth all the things he had learned before, which brought him a strong interest. Early the next morning, Song Yanqing, who had slept late last night, woke up as usual. When he went downstairs, Qiao Jin just came out of the door. The servants also knew the young master's habits and had begun to prepare breakfast at this time. Tong walked in and was surprised to see Qiao Jin also awake. Miss Qiao woke up very early. Qiao Jin was silent. "I have class today. Look, no matter how strong you are, you still have to study hard." Tong was impressed by her attitude of studying hard. Miss Qiao is very hardworking. Qiao Jin glanced at him. "I just don't want to be late. The professor will deduct credits." "What does it have to do with hard work?" Tong, it was too real. Song Yanqing had experienced such a thing last night. Now he woke up early in the morning and looked very good, better than before. Even if he still looked like a sick and weak young master, he always felt that he was more otherworldly than before. At this moment, he smiled and said, "Sit down and have breakfast first. After breakfast, I'll ask the driver to take you to school." Qiao Jin nodded. She didn't go home last night and only gave Qiao Fei a brief greeting. Although Qiao Fei didn't say anything, she was sure that he was already thinking about it. The news that Qiao Jin stayed overnight in the Song family would probably spread quickly. After all, there were many members of the Song family. There was no way to hide it even if he wanted to. As for what others would think, Qiao Jin obviously didn't care. After breakfast, she didn't continue talking to Song Yanqing. She got into the Song family's chauffeur's car and went to school. However, when she arrived at school and was in class, Musilian came to look for her. When Musilian saw her, he still couldn't believe it. His eyes were even full of horror. "You didn't come back from the Song family last night. Did you sleep in the Song family?" "Yeah," Qiao Jin admitted very frankly. Now, there were already students who saw her talking to Musilian. They all looked over curiously. She frowned slightly. "I had something to do last night, so I stayed at the Song family." "Musilian, when did you have such a good relationship with brother Yanqing?" Qiao Jin thought for a moment. "Recently." Musilian, had he underestimated his sister all this time? He didn't expect that she had already hooked up with the young master of the Song family. He didn't want to use this word, but he couldn't think of the right one. Song Guanqing had never heard of any scandals in his 25 years of life, including the fact that he didn't even have a close male friend. He didn't expect Qiao Jin to be able to stay the night in the Song family. Chapter 163. What was their relationship? How far had they progressed? These were all crazy thoughts in Musilian's mind. After all, he was not a simple man and woman. He had a dozen girlfriends. How could there be a pure friendship between a man and a woman? He clicked his tongue and looked at Qiao Jin in disbelief. He sighed, "I underestimated you." Qiao Jin nodded naturally, "You underestimated me. You can't imagine what I am at all. Musilian, you are so glorious." But thinking about it, it was indeed a glorious thing to have a close relationship with the young master of the Song family. The people around watched Qiao Jin and Musilian talk and whispered. Last time, she and Musichu had a misunderstanding at school, and then there was no news. Now, seeing Musilian talking to her, everyone was gossiping wildly in their hearts. But now there was a faint news that Qiao Jin was Musilian's sister. But one of them had the surname Mu, and the other had the surname Qiao. Were they siblings? Everyone was a little excited about the gossip of the Mu family. Musilian continued to ask, "When did you confirm your relationship?" Qiao Jin didn't care about some small things, but she was not stupid. No matter how slow she was, she still remembered the past. At this moment, hearing Musilian's wretched tone, she felt a little strange. She emphasized, "Song Yanqing and I are friends, good friends." When Musilian heard this, it was more obvious that she was trying to cover it up. He thought that Qiao Jin didn't want to announce it. He looked at Qiao Jin with a strange look and then left. Of course, Qiao Jin didn't care what Musilian was thinking. She didn't care about these trivial things and went straight to the restaurant. On the phone, Lin Sai couldn't help but send a message to Qiao Jin. Her sister Zhao Rulan's marriage was getting closer and closer, and they were about to return to Country M. When they arrived in Country M, Lin Sai couldn't get a word in edgewise, so she was a little anxious. Xiao Jin saw Lin Sai's message and pondered for a moment before replying to her. Today, I won't interfere in this matter. If you want to save her, the most you can do is prevent it. But are you willing to pay the price of prevention? Lin Sai hesitated for a moment. Is it a heavy price? Today, it's not that serious, it's just harsh for you. Today, go to Jingchang Temple and donate 1 million Chinese yuan to ask for a jade pendant for her. The abbot will give it to you. Lin Sai was stunned. 1 million? Where was she going to get 1 million yuan? For a moment, Lin Sai wondered if Xiao Jin was really trying to cheat him out of his money. But it was true that he had saved her. What was with this sudden appearance of Jingchang Temple? Lin Sai's family condition was not bad. They had their own house in the capital. His parents had been in the management of the company for many years and were relatively famous. Although they were not very high-ranking, at least they had saved up a large sum of money over the years. However, it was all his parents' money. It was simply impossible for her to take out 1 million yuan. Lin Sai was confused. If she couldn't give 1 million yuan, she obviously couldn't get that jade pendant. First, she went online to check the situation of this Jingchang Temple. After checking, she was even more surprised. Jingchang Temple was an ordinary small temple. It wasn't famous among the many temples in the capital. It didn't have many believers and was only located in the suburbs of the neighboring city. There was even little information about it. After checking, Lin Sai's thoughts began to fluctuate. Could it be that they were colluding to cheat money? Chapter 164. At that thought, Lin Sai shook her head again. It was true that the master had saved her. If he had really wanted to extort money to save her, she would have taken the 1 million yuan. She was the one who had asked Zhao Rulan to do the fortune-telling. But where was she going to get the money? Although Zhao Rulan was on good terms with her, this 1 million yuan, at the thought of this, she felt extremely conflicted. She wanted to ask Xiao Jin more, but Xiao Jin only gave her a simple reply. Today, whether you believe it or not is up to you. Today, this is just a precaution. It might work, or it might not. Think about it yourself. Lin Sai could tell that this was indeed a harsh condition. Xiao Jin meant that even if she donated 1 million yuan, it might not work. If it really didn't work, would she have to think that Xiao Jin was a liar? She was really lost. However, Zhao Rulan's matter could not be delayed. They had to return to America. After thinking about it, Lin Sai decided to tell her mother and Zhao Rulan's mother about this. Zhao Rulan's mother had once helped her find a fortune-teller to evaluate her marriage. Lin Sai knew about this. Mother Zhao should be a believer in fate. Thinking of this, Lin Sai returned home after school. While Zhao Rulan and her fiancé were not around, she pulled her mother and Mother Zhao into her room to discuss it. Mom, actually, there's something I haven't told you yet. Lin Sai frowned at her mother. She did not tell her parents about Hu Wei because she did not want them to worry. Now, in order to make her mother believe her, she had to tell them. That's what happened. I also asked sister to find this master for fortune-telling. The results of the master's divination were too scary. Now, there's only one solution. I have no other choice. I don't expect you to believe me. I'm telling you this because I want you to make your own decisions. Godmother, especially you. Anyway, I feel that sister's fiancé. I don't feel comfortable looking at him. Mother Lin and Mother Zhao were dumbfounded when they heard her words. Mother Lin was the first to retort. What nonsense are you talking about? Do you want your sister to be scammed by a fortune-telling shop on the internet? Can the fortune-teller's words be taken seriously? 1 million yuan? Do you really believe it? If you donate the money, the temple will definitely swallow it up with her. Lin Sai's mother was highly educated, so she didn't really believe in these things, even though Lin Sai had already told her about what happened earlier. Lin Sai didn't dare to say anything. After all, 1 million was indeed too outrageous. Zhao Mu's mother was a little melancholy. Lin Mu saw that she was hesitating and immediately said, "Sis, don't believe her nonsense." Lin Sai retorted somewhat unwillingly, But Master is really quite accurate. Mother Lin glared at her. You're still talking. I once did a divination for Lan. Mother Zhao said with a melancholy expression. 2 years ago, the Master's words weren't very good. He only advised my Lan not to get married. We asked him why, but he wasn't willing to tell us. Lan didn't believe in these things, and she insisted on it. It's been 2 years, and we've been at our wits' end. Who would have thought? Even an online guru said that her marriage was not good. Moreover, this time, it was said to be even more dangerous. It was actually the destruction of one's family. Mother Zhao looked at Lin Sai with a gentle smile. Sai, I know you're doing this for your sister's sake. Tell me the address of the temple. Even if we're really cheated, we can treat it as buying a lesson for ourselves. Who knows, losing this 1 million can indeed prevent some disasters. Chapter 165. Sister, are you crazy? 1 million. Mama Lin almost fainted. Sai, you don't have to really believe this girl's nonsense. You're a high-level intellectual after all. Do you really believe this? Mama Zhao only forced a smile at Mama Lin. There were many things that she couldn't say. Her life wasn't so peaceful. She had seen incredible things before, so she had always believed in these things. Lin Sai didn't expect Mama Zhao to really believe her words. She was also a little worried. Godmother, I really can't guarantee. The Master said that even if we donate money, we might not be able to defend against it. I'll pay attention to whether we can defend against it or not. At least now that there was a reminder, they would definitely pay more attention to Zhao Rulan's fiancé, Wei Dushuan. Because they were leaving China in 2 days, Mama Zhao didn't tell her daughter about this matter. Instead, she found an excuse to take Mama Lin to Jingchang Temple. Mama Lin couldn't persuade her no matter what. She could only follow them to see what the background of Jingchang Temple was and see if it could wake Mama Zhao up. 1 million, money was too easy to earn now. Lin Sai told Xiao Jin that Mama Zhao took her mother to Jingchang Temple. She couldn't go because she had to study. Xiao Jin was still a little surprised. You really believe it? Longing for the past, Master, don't scare me. Don't tell me you said it casually. Today, not really. Today, some things are destined, but it's not like there's no chance for change. Let's wait for a miracle. Today, it's still very early. At least a few months. Lin Sai was also anxious. Who knew how long they would live together? She didn't know when she could verify it. Lin Sai's matter here continued. Xiao Jin also had his own things to do. Feng Fei, his birthday banquet was coming soon. She was going. Moreover, Mu Zhenming's father was back. When Xiao Jin returned home, he found an unfamiliar, old man in the house. Dressed in a suit, not a single hair was out of place. His style was better than anyone else's. Even though his face was old, his eyes were still very clear. He sat on the sofa and read the newspaper. Xiao Fei sat beside him and waited carefully. He looked a little timid, but his eyes lit up when he saw his daughter come back first. Jin, come quickly. Your grandfather is back. He just arrived. Taking advantage of Xiao Jin's return, she hurriedly ran away from the old man and came to Xiao Jin. Mu Zhenming's father, Mu Xiangshan, also slowly raised his head. His arrogant eyes were full of scrutiny as he slowly glanced at Xiao Jin. After a seemingly nonchalant observation, he slowly opened his mouth and said, "Who's her grandfather? I don't know where this wild girl came from, but how did she become my granddaughter? You guys really don't know any rules when you do things. You're not allowed to call me grandfather." Mu Xiangshan's tone was very harsh. Xiao Fei looked a little aggrieved. She quietly grabbed Xiao Jin's arm and stammered, "Dad, Jin is the daughter I've raised for 20 years, Mu Xiangshan harumphed. She's not my granddaughter either. Is she related to me by blood?" At this moment, Xiao Jin slowly smiled. Not allowing her to call him grandfather really solved a big problem for Xiao Jin. She calmly said, "Okay, Xiangshan. Mu Xiangshan." Chapter 166. Even the servants of the Mu family could only watch helplessly as cracks appeared on Mu Xiangshan's imposing manner. Qiao Fei didn't expect Qiao Jin to be so bold. Mu Zhenming wasn't a big deal. After all, he was educated abroad and didn't care about such things. Qiao Jin called him by his name, but Mu Xiangshan was a stubborn old man. Qiao Jin was dancing on fire. She was so frightened that she hurriedly said, "Jin, what are you calling him? If you don't call him grandpa, you should at least call him uncle." Qiao Jin patted her hand. "Fei, Xiangshan won't care about such a small matter. He's old and knows his limits." Mu Xiangshan, he couldn't wait to pick up the walking stick beside him and throw Qiao Jin out. However, he was the one who didn't allow Qiao Jin to call him grandpa. Now, even if Qiao Jin didn't know how to be polite, he couldn't say anything. He only sneered and said, "Like mother, like child." Qiao Fei's face instantly flushed red. She must have felt wronged. Back then, he was the one who didn't allow her to be with Mu Zhenming and caused trouble for more than 10 years. When Mu Zhenming gained power and forced him to leave the country, he finally took Qiao Fei back. Now that their relationship was finally improving, it was because of him and Mu Zhenming. He was definitely resentful that he was forced to leave the country. In addition, Qiao Fei had a weak personality, so she could only listen. Qiao Jin slowly walked into the living room. "I can't compare to you in teaching your son. I admit that Zhenming was taught quite well." Mu Xiangshan, what did he mean? Was he poking at someone's scar? If he really taught his son well, would this unfilial son force his old man to leave the country? Mu Xiangshan sneered. "You don't know the rules at all. Is Zhenming a name for you to call?" Qiao Jin sighed. "Xiangshan, you've been abroad for so long. You should cultivate your character. Why do you have to be so calculative over such a small matter?" She spoke very naturally, as if she had known Mu Xiangshan for a long time. Mu Xiangshan stared at Qiao Jin, only to find that Qiao Jin's expression was calm and indifferent. He then turned to Qiao Fei. "You've taught your daughter well." Qiao Fei felt wronged. At this moment, Mu Zhenming's voice came from outside. "Dad has arrived." He had obviously rushed back from the company. His footsteps were hurried. When he entered the living room, he saw the tense atmosphere and Qiao Jin already standing in the room. Mu Zhenming suddenly had a bad premonition. Sure enough, Mu Xiangshan sat up from the sofa and pointed his crutch at him. "Look at your wife's good daughter, calling me by my name at such a young age. She has no manners at all." Qiao Jin said calmly, "Xiangshan, you said yourself that you're not my biological grandfather, so I'm naturally calling you by your name. Don't be angry, it's not good for your health." Mu Xiangshan stomped his crutch on the ground. "Hear it for yourself." Mu Zhenming looked at his wronged wife and the calm Qiao Jin. He rubbed his temples with a headache. Qiao Jin was hospitalized some time ago. She's not in good health, so don't agitate her. Mu Xiangshan, he was an old man. Why didn't he tell her not to agitate him? Mu Xiangshan's eyes widened. Yes, all of you are unfilial. It seems like I shouldn't have come back this time." At this moment, Qiao Jin suddenly spoke up. "Xiangshan, shouldn't you be living with us? Why are you living alone abroad? Do you like peace and quiet?" Mu Xiangshan, why didn't your family know that I was living abroad? Chapter 167. Seeing Mu Xiangshan's expression, the Mu family couldn't help but want to laugh. He had always been an arrogant person. It was rare for him to be humiliated by Qiao Jin. Mu Xiangshan couldn't find the words to reply to Qiao Jin for a long time. He could only stomp his walking stick heavily. "Chimph, no manners. Where are Qi Lian and Qi Chu?" In any case, he had watched the three children grow up. Although they weren't very close, at least they could talk to their grandfather. It was just that the three heartless people chose to stand on his father's side in the battle with his grandfather and father. Qiao Fei immediately said gently, "The two children are still in school. They'll be back soon." Mu Xiangshan glanced at Qiao Jin. "The hardworking people are still working hard. Those who don't know how to work hard can't even perform well in school. If word gets out, who knows how the Mu family will be laughed at." Qiao Jin was a little surprised. "Xiangshan didn't go to university. Don't you know that the courses are different in university?" Since the classes are different, the time is different too. I came back first because the classes are over. Qi Lian and the rest haven't finished their classes yet. They'll definitely be back later. Mu Xiangshan, critical hit. He had forgotten about this for a moment. He sat back on the sofa angrily and pointed his walking stick at Qiao Jin. You. Mu Zhenming looked like he was frowning, but the corners of his mouth were rising uncontrollably. Dad, it's rare for you to come back from abroad. Don't lower yourself to the younger generation's level. Are you hungry? Fei, ask the kitchen to make the arrangements. Although his father was forced to leave the country, it was also to bring Xiao Fei back. Now that things had become a foregone conclusion, his return from abroad meant that he had relented. In any case, they were a family. They couldn't treat each other like enemies for the rest of their lives. Of course, now there was the unexpected addition of Qiao Jin. Xiao Fei went to the kitchen to prepare dinner. Qiao Jin slowly sat down and said gently, Xiangshan, you still haven't answered my question. Why are you living overseas alone? How long do you intend to stay this time? Mu Xiangshan stared at Qiao Jin with widened eyes. What a joke. This is my house. I can stay as long as I want. What do you mean by that? Qiao Jin's expression was calm. Well, of course you can stay as long as you want. Then why did you live abroad previously? Mu Xiangshan, how preposterous. Was there no end to this? It was as if he was hitting his weak spot with all his might. Mu Zhenming lowered his gaze slightly. Qiao Jin. Qiao Jin nodded and said in a happy voice, Zhenming, I'm very interested in what happened between you and Fei in the past. Why don't you tell me about it when we eat later? With that, she got up and went back to her room. Mu Xiangshan looked at Mu Zhenming in disbelief. He raised his walking stick and pointed in the direction Qiao Jin left. She's always like this in front of you guys. Mu Zhenming sighed. I've said it before. She was hospitalized some time ago and was agitated in some places. That's why her way of doing things is different from before. Please bear with it. How old am I? She's the same age. How dare you ask me to bear with it? That's right. Even if you're not that woman's biological child, you still treat her like a treasure. What am I, your biological father, to you? If it weren't for this woman, you wouldn't have forced your father to go overseas. Mu Zhenming's eyes darkened. Who knew that Qiao Jin's surprised voice could be heard from upstairs? Zhenming, you actually did such a disgraceful thing? Were you the one who forced Xiangshan to go overseas? Mu Zhenming, Mu Xiangshan. Chapter 168. In terms of treason, Qiao Jin was the most treacherous of them all. But who would stoop to her level? After getting along with her for so many days, Mu Zhenming was already used to it. Moreover, his relationship with his father wasn't really too good. He knew in his heart that as long as Qiao Fei was here, his father would always be up to no good. Now that he saw someone who could make him speechless, Mu Zhenming felt that it was a little funny. 4 decades, he had lived under Mu Xiangshan's oppressive policies, and it took him a long time to get back together with Qiao Fei. Now that he saw Mu Xiangshan's appearance, he more or less felt some resentment, but he was an adult man who had been immersed in the business world for many years. Even if he had resentment, he would not show it. Now that he saw Mu Xiangshan being humiliated, he was more happy. It wasn't like they were fighting. He knew Qiao Jin's character. She was calm, and there was some intentional element, but it wasn't too much. Who told Mu Xiangshan to confess? When Mu Xiangshan heard Qiao Jin's words, he was so angry that he trembled. In the end, he rolled his eyes and put on an angry look. Yes. A year ago, you forced me to go abroad. Now, your foreign daughter is angering me. Mu Zhenming, good job. Zhenming, you really went too far. Qiao Jin was about to go to her room, but when she heard this, she walked back down. She frowned slightly and looked at Mu Zhenming disapprovingly. How big of a matter is it? How can you force Xiangshan to go abroad? Aren't you letting others see you as a joke? Zhenming, you don't have a sense of propriety. Mu Zhenming, Mu Xiangshan heard her calm tone, but he felt that she was taking pleasure in his misfortune. He was even more unhappy. Why do you care about me and my son? Xiao Jin widened her eyes and looked innocent. Why? Did I say something wrong again? At this time, Xiao Fei had finished arranging dinner and came out. When she saw the atmosphere in the living room, she quickly said, "Let's sit down and talk." "Dad, you haven't been back for a long time. I asked someone to prepare some of your favorite dishes. You've been abroad for so long, it must be hard for you to eat local food," Mu Xiangshan snorted coldly. "Children from poor families are ignorant. What can't you buy with money? I can't eat local food when I'm abroad." Xiao Fei, she was just saying it casually. She didn't expect the old man to stab her with his words. Anyway, no matter how he looked at her, he didn't like an eyelid. She felt so wronged that she could only glare at her husband. If it weren't for the fact that he was Mu Zhenming's father and that he was old, she wouldn't have to suffer such grievances. Mu Zhenming couldn't stand it anymore. Just as he was about to speak, Xiao Jin gently said, "That's good. I was wondering if Zhenming had a bad life after forcing Xiangshan out of the Congress. Now that I think about it, Xiangshan should be living a good life. What can't he buy with money, and he doesn't lack people to serve him?" Zhenming did well in this aspect. Mu Xiangshan, he clearly wanted to curse Mu Zhenming for being heartless, but Xiao Jin retorted. Yes, he was living a good life abroad, but Mu Zhenming was an unfilial son. Every time he said something, this wretched girl would use words to stab him. He could tell that she was helping her mother. Mu Xiangshan secretly glared at Xiao Jin and didn't say anything. Chapter 169. In fact, Mu Xiangshan wasn't like this in front of outsiders. After all, he was once the head of the Mu family and had suppressed Mu Zhenming for decades. But everyone knew that he was forced to go abroad by his son. He was robbed of his power and ended up in a miserable state in his later years. It wasn't exactly miserable. Life abroad was actually not bad. Anyway, there was a lot of money. But he was a loner. He couldn't bring his son back and couldn't bring himself to do so. Now that a year had passed and the relationship between the father and son had finally eased, he wanted to come back. But it didn't mean that he didn't resent being abroad for a year. At least, he had to see his grandchildren. He didn't expect to meet such a troublesome granddaughter who wasn't related by blood. Muzichu and Muzilian received news from their mother in school that their grandfather was back. They didn't feel good. The reason was that there was now a Xiao Jin in the family. Their grandfather didn't even like their mother, let alone a granddaughter who wasn't related by blood. She hurried back home and had already set up the table for dinner. She was just waiting for them to come back and start eating. They saw the long table in the hall with a quiet and austere atmosphere. It was clearly an azure field. The two of them saw the old man in a suit sitting at the head of the table. Muzichu calmly called out, "Grandfather." Muzilian called out a little nervously, "Grandfather." They had been afraid of this grandfather since they were young. The reason why their big brother was so serious sometimes was because of their grandfather's teachings. At least the two of them were controlled by Mu Zhenming more. Mu Xiangshan's expression was cold. He responded with a millimeter and gestured to the chair with his eyes. He raised his chin and said, "Sit down and eat." Even if he left a little aggrieved, he was still the eldest in the family after coming back. Mu Zhenming had to respect him as a father on the surface. After Muzilian and Muzichu sat down, Muzilian glanced at Xiao Jin. Seeing her calm expression, he didn't know if they had said anything when they met earlier. He knew that his grandfather sometimes spoke very harshly. Mu Xiangshan announced the start of the meal. The few people at the table had different expressions. Muzichu was more polite in front of Mu Xiangshan. At this time, he also said softly, "Grandfather, how is your health?" Muzilian heard him speak and hurriedly asked about Mu Xiangshan's health, expressing his concern for his two grandchildren. Mu's expression relaxed slightly. Mu Xiangshan said, "Thanks to your father, my health is good." Mu Zhenming was stunned. He was indeed rebellious. Even now, he was speaking in a strange tone. Who knew that the old man wasn't a well-behaved master? When the servant beside him added more food to his plate, Mu Xiangshan looked at Xiao Jin again. "Sai, it's good to have a biological child, unlike some people who don't know how to follow the rules." They don't even know how to ask about their health when they see their elders. They don't even know how to be polite and go against their elders. These words were very targeted. Everyone at the table had different expressions. They thought that the old man was really targeting Xiao Jin. Musilian looked at Xiao Jin and explained nervously, "No, grandfather, Xiao Jin was hospitalized some time ago and her health isn't good. She just came back to our house. If she says anything to offend you, don't take it to heart. She didn't mean it." Mu Xiangshan laughed. "Oh, so she was hospitalized because of me?" Chapter 170. She wasn't hospitalized because of him, so what did it have to do with him? Of course not. Musilian continued, "Grandpa, Xiao Jin isn't sick. She tried to commit suicide some time ago." He wanted to clarify Xiao Jin's situation, but Mu Zhenming said, "That's enough." Mu Xiangshan was already enraged. Suicide? Did she encounter something so serious that she even tried to commit suicide? She's mentally weak, not at all like a member of the Mu family. If Xiao Jin was really mentally weak, wasn't Mu Xiangshan rubbing salt on her wound? Xiao Jin's eyes were calm as she put down her bowl, her tone still indifferent. "Xiangshan, I'm not a member of the Mu family, so of course I'm not like you." Mu Xiangshan, when Musilian heard her call Mu Xiangshan's name, his eyes almost popped out. This person was really fierce. Xiao Fei's eyes reddened when she heard that. She thought that Xiao Jin's words were filled with resentment. Now that her identity wasn't recognized, she couldn't help but say, "Dad, Xiao Jin is my biological daughter. She's not an outsider. Don't keep saying that she's not a member of the Mu family." Mu Xiangshan paused, and Mu Zhenming's gaze turned cold. "Dad, are you angry at me for sending you abroad? If you have any anger, you can take it out on me. Xiao Fei and Xiao Jin are innocent." Mu Xiangshan slammed the table angrily. "What did I say? You're good, protecting the mother and daughter. Qi Chu and Qi Lian are her biological children, so why isn't she protecting them? She raised an outsider who isn't related by blood for so many years. Why doesn't she visit her own son?" Mu Zhenming was also angry. "You have the nerve to talk about others. All these years, wasn't it because of you that Xiao Fei couldn't see her own son because she didn't want to see him?" Mu Xiangshan's voice was stern. "You're starting to criticize me now? Why aren't you as strong-willed as you are today? Now that everything in the company has been taken away by you, you're speaking so loudly." Mu Zhenming was so angry that he laughed. "Because you're the only father in history to threaten his son." In just a few words, an argument broke out at the dining table. The atmosphere was tense for a moment. It was not the first time that the father and son of the Mu family had quarreled. The atmosphere made people tremble with fear. The servants retreated one after another. Musichu and Musilian looked at each other, not daring to speak. They knew very well that if they spoke, it would only make the two people angrier. Xiao Fei sat opposite them. His face was pale. He was frightened by their argument and his eyes were red. In this chaos, Xiao Jin was the calmest one. He even slowly finished the rice in his bowl, wiped his mouth with a tissue, and said elegantly, "Don't quarrel. One of you has liver heat and high blood pressure. Aren't you afraid of anger attacking your heart? The other one has myocardial strain. Why don't you all go to the hospital for a checkup?" Everyone, Mu Xiangshan immediately glared at her. "What nonsense are you talking about? I'm very healthy. How can I have high blood pressure?" Xiao Fei's face turned even paler. "Myocardial strain? Are you talking about your Uncle Mu?" Xiao Jin nodded. "Of course. You can take it that I'm talking nonsense. After all, I'm a 20-year-old girl." With that, she left the dining table. She was obviously not affected by the quarrel at all. When the others heard what she said, they were dumbfounded. Even if there was something wrong with these two people, how could Xiao Jin tell? Was she a doctor? Chapter 171. Of course, Xiao Jin was not a doctor, but she could still tell if a person was sick. Mu Zhenming had been in a high-stress state for a long time, so it was not strange for him to have myocardial strain. Also, He had been pressured by Mu Xiangshan in the past and had been in a high-stress state. Because of his irregular work schedule, he was almost 50 years old. It was normal for such a situation to occur. Mu Xiangshan, on the other hand, was resentful after he was forced to leave the country. Long-term resentment naturally led to some changes in his mental state. One of the triggers for high blood pressure was high stress. In any case, the father and son had harmed each other. As for whether they believed it or not, they would have a physical examination every once in a while. They would know sooner or later. These two were not seriously ill, but there was a possibility of accidents. Therefore, not being angry was the most basic. They had to take good care of themselves. After a while, Qiao Fei came in and looked at Qiao Jin worriedly. "Jin, how can you tell that your uncle has myocardial strain?" Qiao Jin paused and then found an excuse. "I learned something on the internet. I know how to read people's faces. I can tell by looking at their faces." Although Qiao Fei was a little surprised, he was not very alert. He just widened his eyes. "Really? Wasn't it too amazing to be able to tell what was wrong with them at a glance?" Qiao Jin smiled and said, "Whether it's true or not, can't you just let them check it out?" "I don't mean what I say, but the doctor has to." Qiao Fei left with a worried look on his face. They quarreled at night. Although Qiao Jin mentioned it casually, the two of them had a rough idea. That night, they found the family doctor to check it out. In the end, it was true. In particular, myocardial strain sounded more frightening than high blood pressure. Mu Xiangshan was an old man, so it was not strange for him to have high blood pressure. But Mu Zhenming, when he heard that he had been working for a long time and was under a lot of pressure, Mu Xiangshan knew that it was most likely because of him. In the end, he did not have a good rest on his first night. When he thought of his son, who had some lesions, he felt a little ashamed. Fortunately, this was not a serious illness, but it was an irreversible disease. He needed more attention and care. Otherwise, it was hard to guarantee that there would not be any accidents. The members of the Mu family were stunned. Especially Mu Zillion. To be honest, they weren't very surprised when the results of the test came out. Everyone could tell what kind of condition their father had been in for a long time, but they didn't expect their little sister to be able to tell at a glance. What did Qiao Jin study? She wasn't a medical student. But Qiao Jin had to go to the hospital too. She still had to go for a physical examination every half a month. Now, it was time. Qiao Fei had just experienced the terrible fact that both of her family members had some problems. Now, she asked the doctor to examine Qiao Jin properly. Finally, after confirming that her body had completely recovered and that there was nothing wrong with her, he finally felt relieved. The drug issue seemed to have disappeared with Tan Xuejia's death. In the hospital, Qiao Jin saw Huiling again. Huiling watched her finish the examination and picked an opportunity to see her. At this time, Huiling's face looked a little haggard, but her eyebrows were still calm. When she saw Qiao Jin, she smiled and said, "Miss Qiao, thank you." Qiao Jin raised her eyebrows slightly. "Why are you thanking me? I didn't do anything." She only said a few words, and Huiling didn't listen, so there was no need to thank her. Chapter 172. At least what you said was useful. Huiling mustered up her courage and said, "My brother and I know that it has already happened, so we can only accept it. My brother's psychological condition is good, and he is actively receiving rehabilitation treatment. Even if he doesn't have a leg, technology is so advanced now. There are always other ways." The main reason was that Qiao Jin had said that their family would have a great opportunity if her brother worked hard. Huiling believed him. If her brother collapsed and lost his fighting spirit or did something unexpected, her family would be finished. The medical fees were a huge sum, and even Huiling could not afford it. However, Huiling's brother had always done well in school. This time, after knowing that his family had suffered such a huge disaster, the school donated. In addition to the teacher's generosity, it was actually more than 100,000 yuan. After all, it was already not bad in school. At least, it temporarily solved the urgent problem. Just as Qiao Jin had said, other than the fact that her brother's accident was a disaster in itself, What happened next was not too difficult. It did not destroy the family in one go. Therefore, Hualing was here to thank Qiao Jin. If she hadn't listened to Qiao Jin's advice and gone home to console her tear-stricken brother every day, telling him about a fortune-teller who had helped him regain his confidence and eventually decided to continue with his studies so that he could have a fighting chance, his life might have been over. Qiao Jin smiled. It's all right. It's just a matter of saying something. Hualing said sincerely, but to me, at least there's hope. At least someone told her that their family could be saved. Even if it was a natural disaster, there was another way out. Her brother was the lifeblood of the family. He was very important. Qiao Jin saw that Hualing believed him, and his eyes lit up. Hualing could not help but be a little dazed when she saw Qiao Jin like this. Actually, she wanted to say more. Qiao Jin seemed to be more beautiful than before. When Qiao Jin first came to the hospital, her face could be said to be exquisite, but she had not rested well for a long time. Her condition was poor, and she did not take care of herself. Her hair was dry and fell out quickly. The suicide had a great impact on her, and her complexion was extremely poor. Qiao Jin's hair had become thick and black in the short span of a month. Now, when he came to the hospital, his hair simply fell to his waist like seaweed. Her delicate facial features relaxed even more. Her facial features were not the aggressive kind of gorgeous, but a kind of pure elegant beauty. It was as if it was emitting a divine radiance. As expected, once a grandmaster received guidance, would his entire person become different? Hualing was in a daze, but she still spoke her heartfelt words. Are you getting more and more beautiful? Qiao Jin looked at Hualing and smiled. I have to thank my parents for their good genes. Hualing thought of Qiao Fei's face and nodded in agreement. Mrs. Qiao is also very beautiful. With her status, she still did not know if Qiao Jin was Qiao Fei's biological daughter. Qiao Jin did not say anything, and naturally did not refute her words. She propped up her chin and thought about her biological parents. She was adopted by Qiao Fei from the orphanage when she was very young. She did not know who had left her at the entrance of the orphanage. She was lucky to have met Qiao Fei. If Qiao Jin wanted to find her parents now, it would be a piece of cake. But what was the point? Seeing Qiao Jin holding her chin and thinking about something, Hualing left quietly. Chapter 173. After the checkup, Qiao Fei brought Qiao Jin home. Mu Xiangshan was alone at home, and an old friend had come to visit. He was about the same age as Mu Xiangshan. Qiao Fei was a very good-tempered person, and he didn't feel afraid when he saw Mu Xiangshan. He said happily, Jin's body has completely recovered. She's healthy. Mu Xiangshan didn't realize that Qiao Fei was talking to him. After a while, he looked up and saw Qiao Fei and Qiao Jin. He said, oh. He didn't give Qiao Fei a hard time. There was another old man in the house. The old man looked much more amiable than Mu Xiangshan. He looked more like a kind old man. He also had the noble temperament of the upper class. At first glance, one could tell that he was extraordinary. The tang suit he was wearing was custom-made and embroidered. The old man looked at Qiao Fei and said kindly, so this is Qiao Fei's youngest daughter. This girl is really beautiful and has a good temperament. Mu Xiangshan snorted coldly when he heard the compliment. If he had seen it when he was scolding him yesterday, he wouldn't have said that. The kind old man looked at Mu Xiangshan strangely. Did I say something wrong? Qiao Fei didn't care about Mu Xiangshan's sarcasm. He pulled Qiao Jin and introduced her with a smile. Jin, this is your Grandpa Ji. His Grandpa Ji's good friend. When she pulled Qiao Jin out and introduced him, Qiao Jin looked at the old man in front of him and the corners of his mouth suddenly lifted into a mysterious smile. She didn't greet anyone and just smiled. Qiao Fei pinched the back of her hand, but she didn't react. Mu Xiangshan snorted. This girl was hospitalized some time ago. Her brain isn't very good. Don't bother with her. Qiao Fei, why did he have to say that his granddaughter was crazy in front of others? Ji Pinggan didn't think that Qiao Jin was crazy. When she looked at him and smiled, there was some inexplicable meaning. However, Ji Pinggan himself was a little puzzled. He had only heard of this foreign girl from the Mu family, but had never seen her before. Seeing that the other party was only smiling and not greeting him, Ji Pingan did not mind. Instead, he said, "Girls are obedient. Why are you talking about her like that? Mu Xiangshan, obedient my ass." He was deceived by the surface. Qiao Fei saw that Qiao Jin didn't say anything. He was afraid that Mu Xiangshan would say more, so he quickly apologized and pulled Qiao Jin into the house. When they were upstairs, Qiao Fei sighed. "Jin, it's okay if you're at home, but you can't not greet your elders when you're outside." Unexpectedly, Qiao Jin suddenly looked at her seriously. "Fei Fei, do you know who he is?" "Grandpa Ji?" Qiao Fei paused for a moment. "Of course I know. I already said that your Grandpa Ji is your grandfather's good friend. The two of them used to conquer the world together. However, your Grandpa Ji's ancestors were all scholarly families. Now, his whole family is involved in business and politics. His children are all outstanding and amazing. Fei Fei, do you know about his relationship with me?" Qiao Fei was confused. "What relationship does he have with you? Of course, according to seniority, you have to call him Grandpa. Grandpa Ji might be eating at home. You can't be so rude later." However, Qiao Jin's smile gradually widened. He said, "Fei Fei, in terms of blood, he is the same as me in Xiangshan." It was a mouthful, but Qiao Fei understood. It was precisely because he understood that his face turned pale. Chapter 174. Mu Xiangshan could be considered Qiao Jin's grandfather, but they were not related by blood. However, Qiao Jin said that Ji Pingan was related to her by blood. The meaning was clear. Ji Pingan was Qiao Jin's biological grandfather. "How is that possible?" Qiao Fei screamed. "How do you know?" "Of course I know." Qiao Jin smiled naturally. "It's just a small problem. I can tell at a glance." The old man had a special bond with her by blood, so he naturally knew what the problem was. Qiao Fei couldn't laugh. She stared at Qiao Jin, but she was a little scared. In fact, she had always been afraid that Qiao Jin would be found. After all, she had raised Qiao Jin for 20 years. When she adopted him, the orphanage said that the child was abandoned by his parents and that no one would come to acknowledge him. Qiao Fei had never thought about this problem since they were in a small border town. Now that they were back in the capital, Qiao Fei had never considered this problem. However, Qiao Jin said that Ji Pingan was her biological grandfather. That was the Ji family. The Ji family was also a big family. Ji Pingan used to be the third son of the Ji family. Because he was dissatisfied with the family's arrangement, he became a university teacher. Later, he came out to start a business and met Mu Xiangshan. Ji Pingan now had children of his own, but they were also part of the Ji family. His brother was still the head of the Ji family. The Ji family was a big family. Perhaps they weren't as strong as the Song and Feng families, but their foundation was deeper than those two families. However, Qiao Fei thought of many Qiao Jin's biological parents, but she never thought that Qiao Jin was a child of the Ji family. She trembled. How did you know?" Qiao Jin thought for a moment. "Don't worry, he doesn't know who I am. He has never seen me at all. The Ji family doesn't know that I exist." Qiao Fei was stunned. "They don't know? How could the Ji family not know that their blood-related child had wandered outside?" Qiao Jin didn't hide it from her. "I'll know when I see it later. Do you want to know?" "If you don't want to know, I don't have to tell you." Qiao Fei didn't know what she was up to. His face turned pale when he heard this. "Of course I want to know." She would definitely want to know about her daughter's background. Qiao Jin nodded. "Let me do it." "Qiao Fei, count." What was this? She stared blankly at Qiao Jin as he left. Qiao Jin returned to his room, set up an array formation, and dripped his blood into it. She had never investigated her own background. Now that she saw Ji Pingan, she conveniently checked it out. When the time came, he would tell Fei Fei so that she could be mentally prepared. Otherwise, it would be even more difficult for her to accept the unexpected situation in the future. Although her own background was a little vague, it had happened after all, so it was much clearer. In addition, the internet was very advanced now. Xiao Jin searched for information based on what she saw on Baidu and got a rough idea. She returned to Qiao Fei's place and said to the uneasy Qiao Fei, "I got it. Ji Ping'an's eldest son is related to me by blood, but I was born by his lover. She abandoned me for some reason and changed to a boy. That's how I entered the Ji family. It's quite successful." Her tone was calm. Qiao Fei was stunned. The main reason was that Ji Ping'an's eldest son's second wife was indeed a famous mistress. However, she went abroad a few years ago and never came back. Therefore, Qiao Fei had never seen her, let alone thought that Xiao Jin was her biological daughter. Chapter 175. Qiao Fei paused for a long time before she regained her composure. What's with the change of a boy? Xiao Jin said, "When she gave birth to me, she wanted to have a son. She was very disappointed when it turned out to be a girl. Her eldest son told her that she could only enter the Ji family if she gave birth to a boy. So, she gave birth to another boy and abandoned me." She spoke very calmly as if she was telling someone else's story. She didn't feel sad at all. Now that she had Qiao Fei, she didn't care who her biological parents were. Qiao Fei was extremely shocked. "But these things are so secretive. How did you know? You're just a little girl." Xiao Jin said very naturally, "I don't want to talk to you anymore. I know how to read people's faces and fortune-telling. Naturally, I could tell. I learned all of this from the internet." Qiao Fei. The room fell into a long silence. After a long time, Qiao Fei's tone became blank. Fortune-telling? Xiao Jin didn't intend to hide it anymore. She had to prepare some excuses. She nodded. "Yes, fortune-telling. I've always known how to do it. I just didn't tell you. Don't ask for the reason. If you ask, she learned it from the internet. The internet was a good place. You could learn anything and buy anything." Qiao Fei fell into doubt about life. If he was a fortune-teller, would he be able to calculate his own life experience clearly? Could it be wrong? Qiao Fei was a simple-minded person. Even if she had doubts, she didn't dare to think too deeply. She only said worriedly, "You know so clearly. Could it be that you're overthinking? I won't talk about these things carelessly. If you want to see it, I can find a way to get the Ji family's blood and do a DNA test." No, Qiao Fei immediately stopped her. She panicked at first, but she didn't dare to believe it. Moreover, she instinctively didn't want Xiao Jin's biological parents to know about her existence. She looked terrible. Then, will you want to go back? But what if Xiao Jin wanted to go back? Xiao Jin shook his head. Fei, you're so naive. My biological mother abandoned me for a boy for wealth and glory. Do you think she would let me ruin her current life? Qiao Fei's face turned pale. Yes. If such a thing really happened back then, the Ji family would definitely not allow such a scandal to exist. There was also the boy who had been swapped with Xiao Jin. If the Ji family found out, what if Xiao Jin was in danger? Qiao Fei was naive and sweet, but she had heard of some of the filthiness of the rich and powerful. It was far worse than what she had seen on TV. "We can't let anyone know. You're not allowed to tell anyone," Qiao Fei immediately said to Xiao Jin. Xiao Jin nodded. "I don't intend to tell anyone." Qiao Fei had raised her for so many years, so he had the right to know. Okay. I'll go out and see if your Grandpa Ji has left." She still looked a little pale. Xiao Jin walked forward and held her hand gently. Fei, don't worry. There won't be any accidents. I'm your daughter in this life, and I'll only be your daughter." Upon hearing this, Qiao Fei, who had been in a daze, finally calmed down. Yes. It didn't matter if they were biological parents or not, as long as Xiao Jin didn't leave. She wasn't his biological mother in the first place. This was a fact that she had always known. Thinking of this, she relaxed a little. Chapter 176. She went out to check on Ji Ping'an. As expected, he hadn't left. Seeing the two elders chatting happily, It was very likely that Ji Pinggan would stay for dinner tonight. Of course, Xiao Fei couldn't chase him away. As a good mistress of the house, she had to arrange a good dinner to entertain the elders. Of course, because of her conflicted feelings, she didn't want Ji Pinggan to see Xiao Jin now. She wanted Xiao Jin to find an excuse not to come out. She wasn't a selfish mother. She just thought of what Xiao Jin said just now. Her biological mother could abandon her for wealth and glory, so she definitely wouldn't let her disturb everything now. If she found out, she was afraid that something would happen to Xiao Jin. However, she was someone who couldn't hide her thoughts. If she acted too strange when she saw Ji Pinggan, it would definitely arouse his suspicion. She could only say that she wasn't feeling well and wanted to go to bed early. Mu Xiangshan found a topic at this time. Your girl is so good at reading faces. Let her help you see what's wrong with you. Xiao Fei, reading faces? This caught Ji Pinggan's attention. Who knows how to read faces? Before Xiao Fei could stop him, Mu Xiangshan said, "It's Xiao Jin. I don't know where that little girl learned how to read faces. When she saw me last night, she said that I had high blood pressure." She was right. I only found out that I had high blood pressure after the doctor checked me last night. I didn't have it before. Humph, it's all because of their family. Ji Pinggan smiled and was a little puzzled. Isn't reading faces looking at one's fate? How can she tell if I have an illness? Mu Xiangshan waved his hand. How would I know? Since she's so good at reading faces, let her take a look at you. Fei Fei is just feeling unwell. She'll be fine after some rest. Xiao Jin happened to appear at the top floor of the hall and continued the conversation. Xiao Fei saw Xiao Jin and her eyelids twitched. Xiao Jin nodded at her. Fei Fei, go and rest. Xiao Fei was a little reluctant, but seeing how calm her daughter was, she went up. She also knew that if she stayed, she would be frightened and affect Xiao Jin's performance. Xiao Jin walked down and smiled at the two elders. Xiangshan, do you need me to read your friend's face? Mu Xiangshan pulled a long face. What friend? This is your grandpa Ji. Will you die if you call him? And you're calling me by my name? Don't you know how to call me? Xiao Jin waved his hand. Xiangshan, a promise is a promise. You're the one who didn't allow me to call you that, so you can't go back on your words. Mu Xiangshan, Ji Pinggan was a little stunned by the way their family got along, but after a while, he reacted and laughed. It's good, it's good. When I was abroad, there were many families there who didn't call them parents, but called them by their names. They were quite approachable. We're not those old-fashioned people. If she likes to call us that, then let her be. Mu Xiangshan, haha. Ji Pinggan was still a little interested in Xiao Jin. He felt that this girl had a kind of spiritual aura that couldn't be found in the younger generation. Yes, spiritual aura. It was very eye-catching. Jin, do you know how to read faces? Why don't you help me? Xiao Jin looked at Ji Pinggan and nodded with a smile. Sure, not only do I know how to read faces, but I also know how to read fortunes. What do you want to know? Oh, fortune-telling? Ji Pinggan was even more interested. Of course, he didn't believe that Xiao Jin really knew how to read fortunes. He was just teasing her. Chapter 177. Mu Xiangshan's sneer deepened. She can read fortunes? What a joke. Ji Pinggan said, why don't you tell me about my health first? Xiao Jin scanned Ji Pinggan from head to toe and said, you're very healthy. You're no worse than a young man, but your immune system is weaker. Once you catch a cold, it's harder for you to recover quickly. Other than that, you're stronger than Xiangshan. Mu Xiangshan was speechless. After all, he was an old man. He couldn't force his body to be strong. Ji Pinggan nodded. He had just had a physical examination and there was nothing wrong with him. His mentality was one of the best among the older generation, so he didn't have to worry. As long as his mentality was good, his body was even better. Then you said you can read fortunes. What can you read? Can you read my face and tell me about my family's situation? Xiao Jin shook his head. I can read fortunes, but I won't tell others. You should know that the secrets of the heavens are not to be divulged. If you want to know some things, you have to pay a price. You're in good health, so there's no need for you to know anything else. Mu Xiangshan sneered. It's enough to tell a person's illness just by looking at their face. Do you really believe that she can read fortunes? How could a little girl like her be able to master it? Ji Pinggan was even more intrigued. If I really want to know, what price do I have to pay? Qiao Jin, then it can only be a matter for your children and grandchildren. But the price is too high for you to pay. Ji Pinggan said, can't I pay? Mu Xiangshan was furious. Ji Pinggan, don't mess around. She's just a child. You're taking her seriously, and you still want to pay? Even if she wants to read your fortune, she'll do it for free. How dare she charge you? How dare she? Qiao Jin glanced at Mu Xiangshan and said, I won't charge you. You don't have anything for me to read. Even if this was a bluff, it was at least reassuring. At least he knew that nothing would happen to his family. Ji Pinggan nodded. This girl from the Mu family was really interesting. And the more he looked at her, the more he felt that this girl was familiar. What part of it was familiar, but he couldn't remember. Not long after, Mu Qilian and Mu Chichu came back one after another. Mu Zhenming was a little late because of work, but after the examination of myocardial strain, he was forced by Qiao Fei to return home on time. If there was anything, he had to come home. At the same time, Mu Chichu began to learn how to take over Mu Zhenming's domestic affairs to help. Mu Qizhi was temporarily abroad and also couldn't do anything else. Ji Pinggan smiled faintly and said, this is a good thing. Zhenming dotes on his wife so much. If you can't stand it, you can also find a partner. Mu Xiangshan's wife passed away more than 10 years ago, and Mu Xiangshan didn't remarry since then. Mu Xiangshan rolled his eyes. Forget it. He's already so old, and he still has high blood pressure. Who knows when he'll die from anger? What's the point of looking for a wife? He's tired of living. The atmosphere at the dinner table was too suffocating. Mu Zilian and Mu Zichu both ran away after eating. Qiao Jin also left after eating slowly. The two old people had their own topics to talk about, and the young people didn't fit in. Chapter 178. Jin City, an unknown area, Jingchang Temple. It was really hard to find this place. Mema Lin and Mema Zhao spent some time asking around before they finally arrived at Jingchang Temple. The temple could be considered shabby and there weren't even many monks. The only thing that could be considered magnificent was the path up the mountain in the temple. There was a very tall Buddha statue. It had a benevolent face and a solemn face. It looked as if it was compassionate to all living beings. Mema Lin and Mema Zhao felt a little pressured when they saw it for the first time. When they arrived at the temple, they saw an abbot standing in front of the temple with his hands clasped together and looking at them. He also had a benevolent face. When he looked at them, he bowed and said, Amitabha. Without waiting for Mema Zhao and Mema Lin's response, he sighed and said, this benefactor is quite good at finding trouble for others. Forget it. She's a variable, but she's also doing good. Mema Lin and Mema Zhao were confused. They didn't know what he was talking about. Then, they went to the temple and donated 1,000,000 yuan. The abbot accepted it and really gave them a jade pendant. It was a benevolent and pessimistic image. It looked like a good piece of jade. However, they felt like they were in a daze along the way. After they got the jade pendant and returned to the capital, they felt a little dazed. It was as if something was deceiving them. Although it felt strange, it also felt like a guide. After that, Lin Sai sent a message to Qiao Jin, saying that they had gotten the jade pendant and had returned to America. When Qiao Jin saw the message, he smiled and stuffed a piece of candy into his mouth. The sweet taste was indeed delightful. The people of the future generation really made a lot of good things. She checked the official website and saw a piece of news. An unknown monk donated 1,000,000 yuan to a poor mountain village to build a school. It was a great merit. She smiled and thought to herself that she had to find a chance to meet this monk. In this world, there were very few powerful formation masters who could make her feel something. At that moment, her computer made a ding sound. There was business. Anonymous buyer XX, A fortune-telling shop is so expensive. Are you a black shop? Today, so what do you want to know? Anonymous buyer XX, do you know how old I am this year? If you can't, I'll report your shop. Today, my shop only has 3 business deals and your shop is in a hurry to ruin my business. Beware of retribution. Anonymous buyer XX. On the other side of the computer, Jiang Hongbin's forehead was suddenly covered in sweat. Damn, how did she know that he was from another shop? He was from another fortune-telling shop. His business wasn't very good, but it wasn't bad either. It wasn't because it was accurate, but because the fees were cheap. With a consultation fee of 10 yuan, it was possible to get some knowledge out of a few blind guesses. Therefore, it was a legitimate fortune-telling shop. Qiao Jin's shop wasn't anything special. However, it was too much to have comments on all 3 of his businesses. It's so expensive, yet you're still paying the bill. How shameless. Who didn't know that fortune-telling shops nowadays were all fake? Therefore, he came with the intention of picking a fight, but in the end, no. Perhaps his tone was too harsh. It did seem like he was deliberately looking for trouble. Nowadays, there were quite a number of such sellers. They would hire people to cause trouble for other shops. She must have guessed it. She didn't know which shop she was in. Anonymous buyer XX. Hehe, you're just spouting nonsense if you don't know. Anonymous buyer XX. I asked you to guess my age, why are you talking about other things? Today, you place an order. Anonymous buyer XX. How can I place an order if I don't check first? Today, fine, don't blame me for not warning you if you get retribution. Jiang Hongbin, 26 years old, male, customer service of You're Not Allowed to Be Free shop. Jiang Hongbin cursed. Fuck you. Chapter 179. Jiang Hongbin's forehead was covered in sweat. He was indeed in the shop next to Qiao Jin's. That was because their shop was cheap and their business was good. But most of them were just to fool people. The customer service staff would read some books about horoscopes and make up some nonsense. Of course, they wouldn't be accurate. At least they could make people feel that there was something fishy about it. After all, in this line of work, it depended on how good one was at fooling people. But Jiang Hongbin had never seen anyone who could accurately predict his personal information through the internet. Information leak. Impossible. He definitely wouldn't use his own account to do this. It would be someone else's account. And Qiao Jin couldn't see his real information before he placed the order, let alone guess that it was him. But the truth was right in front of him. Even if there were surveillance cameras, it shouldn't be so ridiculous. Hacker. That was the only thing Jiang Hongbin could think of. Could it be that the other party had instantly hacked into his computer and obtained his personal information? Was that why he could be so clear? Hackers could be real, but people who relied on their own calculations couldn't be real. The other party knew his real information immediately. Jiang Hongbin had to admit that he was terrified. Anonymous buyer XX. I'm sorry. You're a magnanimous person. Can you not lower yourself to my level? Anonymous buyer XX. I just wanted to take a look. I didn't mean anything else. I didn't mean to cause trouble. I'm really sorry. He was terrified very quickly. It was mainly because people on the internet these days had your personal information. It was too scary. Once it was leaked, he might face some harassment. Especially when the other party was a hacker. Qiao Jin saw that the other party was terrified. He clicked his tongue lightly. Today, you didn't offend me. Why are you apologizing? Today, it's just that you have bad intentions. Are you afraid that I'll steal your business? Today, you're all liars. We're fundamentally different. Jiang Hongbin, the corner of his mouth twitched. Everyone was a liar. Why did he sound so righteous? Wasn't he just relying on the fact that he was a hacker and could hack into other people's computers? But even though he thought that, he didn't dare to type it out for the other party. Today, have you thought it through? If you have, I'll give you the money. I'll calculate it for you. Won't you know if I'm right? It's 100 yuan. The fees were so high that it was equivalent to 10 of his family's businesses. Especially during the holidays, They had discounts. Qiao Jin's family did not have that. Oh, it's currently in the discounted phase. Soon, it will actually return to the original price. Although he was somewhat unwilling, Jiang Hongbin still added the money. Of course, what he chose was a simple life calamity set meal. Although it was called life calamity, it was just to calculate the events in his life. Jiang Hongbin did not feel that he was unlucky. He wanted to see what other information the other party could dig out from his computer. The more detailed the information was, the more it proved that the other party had taken the information from his computer. Who knew that the other party didn't take the usual route at all? 3 seconds after he placed the order, he directly sent a message. Today, I advise you to go to the hospital to have your brain checked. These words sounded like a scolding. Jiang Hongbin immediately panicked. This was too much. I've already given him the money, yet he's still mocking me. He couldn't help but type, but Qiao Jin sent another message. Today, it may be a little ambiguous, but I seriously advise you to go to the hospital to have your brain checked. The later you delay it, the worse it will be. Jiang Hongbin, what was the meaning of this? Are you mocking me again and again? Chapter 180. Even if it was wrong of him to come looking for trouble first, why did he scold him all of a sudden? Jiang Hongbin didn't believe Qiao Jin's words, but when he thought about how he had paid 99 yuan for this, his heart ached a little. Whether or not the other party was a hacker was just his own imagination. He clearly didn't believe it, but he still stared at the sentence on the computer screen for a long time. If he wasn't scolding him, could it be that? How was that possible? He shuddered. Although he didn't like to exercise and sat in front of the computer every day, his body was considered healthy. How could the problem be in the brain? Thinking of this, Jiang Hongbin's lips trembled. In the end, he still doubtfully made an appointment to the hospital for a physical examination. The time was next week. It wasn't that he really believed Qiao Jin's words, but he originally planned to make an appointment for a physical examination. He just didn't think of checking his brain. Now, because of Qiao Jin's words, he specially added a routine check about the brain. It must be fake. How could the fortune-telling on the internet be real? If it was so accurate, why would the other party lie on the internet? Jiang Hongbin made a TSK sound on the computer, but he still turned it off. When this person came looking for trouble, Qiao Jin went to the other party's shop to take a look. It wasn't considered fortune-telling. The other party just used tarot cards to deceive people and used the mysterious knowledge on the internet to solve puzzles. In fact, it was useless. However, because the price was cheap, there were many people who did it. After reading the general idea, Qiao Jin smiled slightly. She knew that Jiang Hongbin wouldn't leave any messages, so she raised her hand and turned off the computer. She got up and opened the door. Qiao Fei, who was about to knock, was stunned. Ah, Jin, what a coincidence. Do you still remember Feiha's birthday banquet tonight? Qiao Jin nodded. I remember. Of course she remembered. Today happened to be Feng Fei his birthday. She agreed to the invitation, so naturally, she wouldn't forget. Qiao Fei nodded, but her expression was a little hesitant. Are you feeling unwell? Why don't we not go? To be honest, Qiao Fei wasn't willing to let Qiao Jin attend any public events. He was afraid that the Ji family would notice. After Qiao Jin told her about the matter that day, she went to check on the Ji family's information. There wasn't much information on the eldest son of the Ji family, but there were a few photos. She looked at them. To be honest, they didn't look alike. There might be some similarities between their eyebrows. From this, it could be seen that Qiao Jin looked more like her biological mother. Qiao Fei heaved a sigh of relief. She had gone abroad a long time ago. If he wasn't particularly familiar with her, it would be difficult for him to tell that they were related based on their appearance. What's more, the other party had a son on the surface. However, it was better to be safe than sorry. What if the other party suddenly returned to the country and met him or recognized him? Why would I feel uncomfortable? Qiao Jin smiled and looked at Qiao Fei. Fei, you don't have to worry about anything. Today is the Feng family's banquet. There's nothing else. It would be inappropriate if she didn't go. She just wanted to see how good the array master of the Feng family had become. Xiao Fei couldn't say more, so he could only nod. She had been thinking about this for the past 2 days, but she didn't tell Mu Junming. He was already suspicious. She had to tell Mu Junming sooner or later. Now, she could only take one step at a time. No matter what, she couldn't let Xiao Jin be recognized by the Ji family. Chapter 181. Feng Fei. His parents had business cooperation with Mu Junming, so it was normal for the family to attend Feng Fei his birthday banquet. However, although Feng Fei he belonged to the Feng family, she was not a core member of the younger generation, so the birthday banquet was not very grand. At least, the Feng family only sent a representative. As for the rest of the younger generation or elders, if they had a good relationship, they would come. If they did not have a good relationship, they would not come. The Feng family's network was complicated yet simple. Sitting in the car was Xiao Jin and the Mu family's twins. Other than them, there was Xiao Fei and Mu Junming. Mu Xiangshan's relationship with the Feng family was not very close. He went out with other old friends, so he did not come. Although he quarreled with his son for more than a year, he did not lack his own social circle after returning to the country. Feng Fei his banquet was held in the most luxurious hotel in the capital. It was a building with dozens of floors. From the bottom to the top, the middle of the hall was open. There was a huge crystal palace chandelier hanging at the top, which was more than 10 meters long. Between the cups, everything showed the extravagance of the upper class. In such a place, walking was probably accompanied by the wind. There were many people at the banquet. Even though it was not unusual for the Feng concubine to be from the same branch, the Feng family had sent a special old man over. This old man was an existence that everyone in the Feng family respected. He was also known as the ancestor. He was the legend of the Feng family. Outsiders did not know what kind of legend he was, but they knew that the Feng family respected him very much. Today, he came to Feng Fei his banquet, giving Feng Fei he enough face. It made the Feng Fei he family, which was originally not valued, have more important uninvited people. Although everyone came for Zhu. Compared with them, Mu Junming's family was not very extraordinary. Although there was a lot of gossip in their family, everyone's target was now Zhu. After entering the banquet hall, Mu Junming took Xiao Fei to meet others, leaving the 3 children to play by themselves. Of course, he specifically asked Mu Zichu and Mu Junming to look after Xiao Jin. Xiao Jin didn't care about what they thought at all. He just lowered his head and typed on WeChat. Mu Zillian stepped forward and glanced at her curiously. "Who are you messaging? You've been texting since we arrived." Xiao Jin didn't even raise his head. Song Yanqing. Mu Zillian. He was an existence he could not imagine. Goodbye. Others would never have imagined that the legendary and sickly young master of the Song family would be able to exchange WeChat messages with a girl like an ordinary person. Especially when this person was his sister. Once again, he lamented how lucky Xiao Jin was to be able to hook up with Song Yanqing. Mu Zillian thought it was a good thing that Xiao Jin was obediently staying there and sending WeChat messages. He glanced at Mu Zichu and said, "Xiao Jin, just sit here and chat with brother Yanqing. You're not allowed to run around, okay?" It was as if he was instructing a child. Xiao Jin nodded perfunctorily. "Got it, Qi Lian. If you want to meet your friend, go ahead." Many people knew Mu Zillian and the others at the Feng family's event. Many of their friends wanted to come over. However, Mu Zillian didn't want those people to meet Xiao Jin. He was still a little worried. "Then you stay here. You're not allowed to run around. Remember." Mu Zichu was a little impatient. He lowered his eyes. "Xiao Jin is 20 years old. Not 2 years old. Mu Zillian, in my eyes, her IQ is only 2 years old. Xiao Jin." Chapter 182. She didn't care about the 2 of them. She lowered her head and chatted happily with Song Yanqing. It wasn't idle chatter. Instead, it was about important matters. It was about the Feng family. She couldn't tell others about the Feng family, but now she could tell Song Yanqing. Song Yanqing was very interested in these things. He naturally knew about the Feng family, not to mention that his aunt had married into the Feng family. However, the Feng family's tradition was somewhat opposite to the Song family's. Song Yiyin usually didn't want her son to have anything to do with the Feng family. Even his aunt's cousins were rarely seen. Song Yanqing, can you tell me more about borrowing luck? Powerful kid, it's not that I can't. It's just that I'm at a banquet now, so it's not convenient. I'll call you tonight to tell you in detail. Song Yanqing, okay. Song Yanqing, I've heard of the Feng family's Azu. He's a bit mysterious. Not only does their family have this Azu, but there's also a person called the Great Ancestor. He basically doesn't appear. No one knows where he came from. He should be the Feng family's ancestor. The ancestor he was talking about was the one with the highest seniority in the Feng family who was still alive. It wasn't far off. Xiao Jin knew who the Great Ancestor was, but there was no movement from the other party now. She wasn't interested in exploring for the time being. After chatting with Song Yanqing for a while, she felt someone in front of her. When she looked up, Feng Fei, his graceful figure in an aqua blue haute couture dress, appeared in front of her. She looked at Xiao Jin with a smile. Xiao Jin, you're here. I'm too busy. There are so many people today. I only saw you now. I'm really sorry. Xiao Jin turned off her phone and smiled faintly. Happy birthday. Simple and direct. Feng Fei, he paused for a moment and smiled again. Thank you. She wore this aqua blue haute couture dress. Her long hair fell like a waterfall, making her look even more ethereal. She was a goddess that everyone needed to look up to. However, after not seeing each other for a few days, Feng Fei, his pupils shrank when she saw the current Xiao Jin. She knew what Xiao Jin was like in the past. Now that she looked at him again, why was he becoming more and more indescribably intelligent? Xiao Jin's hair had also grown longer. Compared to Feng Fei, his straight hair, Xiao Jin's hair was like seaweed, delicate and curly. The last time she saw it, it wasn't so curly. Apart from that, her skin had become even whiter and more flawless. Now that he looked at it up close, it seemed to be glowing. That was an effect that no good skincare products could achieve. It was so good that it made Feng Fei jealous. Half a year ago, she was just an ordinary little girl. With such a huge change in her appearance, the Phoenix consort would never believe that there was nothing wrong with her. Her guess was very accurate. Unfortunately, Xiao Jin would not tell her the truth. With Feng Fei his arrival, she was the focus of attention today. Many people in the hall followed her figure and looked over. They saw Xiao Jin. At first glance, they did not recognize her. Later, someone found out that she came with the Mu family and knew that she was Xiao Jin, who had recently become a little famous in the upper-class circle. Of course, this fame was caused by her suicide. The Mu family was full of melodramatic events. First, it was the parents, then it was the children. However, looking at the situation now, the family seemed to be getting along well. Not to mention, was the daughter brought back by Madame Mu also so beautiful? This was a little surprising. Noticing that others were looking at her, Feng Fei faintly smiled. Xiao Jin, I still have something to do. I'll go and entertain the other guests first. If you have anything to say, just tell me. Chapter 183. Her tone was so gentle that people who didn't know her would think that she had a good relationship with Xiao Jin before. Even Musilian, who had noticed it, was a little surprised. He asked Musichu, brother, is Xiao Jin close to Feng Fei? Musichu lowered his eyes, and his eyes were a little gloomy. It was impossible. He knew very well that Xiao Jin and Feng Fei didn't know each other at all. If it was in private, it would be fine. Xiao Jin was just an adopted daughter of the Mu family. She didn't need to have too much contact with Xiao Jin at all. Now she made such a gesture to make others think that Xiao Jin was in her circle of friends. Was there a problem? He also had some doubts in his heart. Xiao Jin's clear eyes looked at Feng Fei as she walked away. The other party's aqua blue haute couture was sleeveless. Feng Fei, his exposed skin was delicate and white. It was so smooth that it could be used in a shower gel commercial without any scars. Musilian sat over and asked curiously, "What did Feng Fei he say to you just now?" Qiao Jin didn't answer directly. Instead, he said with a deeper meaning, "She was paralyzed in the car accident some time ago. It's fine if she wasn't paralyzed, but now there is no scar on her body. TSK, a medical miracle. Just like when she saved Song Yanqing, a medical miracle." "That's right." Musilian was also a little stunned. He looked at Feng Fei he. Her back was indeed flawless. Feng Fei his paralysis could be said to be a rumor, but the car accident was absolutely true. Musichu even went to the hospital to see her. Now looking at Feng Fei he again, she was very normal. There was no sign of injury. Was there something wrong with her car accident? Musilian doubted life. He wasn't the only one who had these doubts. The others also had these doubts. More and more people knew that Feng Fei he had a serious accident. Lying in bed was not a joke. Who knew that it had only been a short while, but the other party was still alive and kicking, without any signs of being in a car accident. It was really unbelievable. Those who knew kept their mouths shut, while those who didn't knew let their imaginations run wild. They couldn't think of anything more, so they could only attribute it to rumors. Perhaps it was only on the surface, but in reality, nothing major had happened. That was why he recovered so quickly. "Arzu is here." "Arzu? Is that Arzu? Whoa. He does look impressive. Look at his aura and the bodyguards around him. He doesn't look like an old man at all. He looks much more energetic than many young people." There was a slight commotion at the banquet because the legendary Arzu had appeared. The other party was not dressed in a suit. Instead, he was wearing a well-made tang suit. He had white hair and a youthful complexion. His face looked old, but in fact, if one looked closely, the flesh on his cheeks was very firm and plump. He did not look like a normal old man. It was as tight as an old man who had undergone a facelift. However, this was not an effect that could be achieved by facelifts. His eyes were as sharp as an eagle's. When he appeared, his expression was serious. He looked around the banquet. Whoever his gaze landed on would feel their scalp tingle. He was very imposing. Qiao Jin sat on the sofa next to him. There was someone in front of him, so he was lucky to hide from the other party's eyes. When Arzu arrived, he did not say anything. It seemed that he had no interest in saying a few words of congratulations for Feng Fei he. Feng Fei he and her parents did not dare to neglect him. Her parents welcomed Arzu to the main seat and sat down. When Qiao Jin saw Arzu's figure, a strange smile appeared on his face. Chapter 184. She did not underestimate her karma. The Feng family began to have problems. Of course, they could not see this problem. Qiao Jin's karma had not been realized on Feng Fei he, and it had begun to invade the Feng family's fate. She should have died, but she was saved by someone. She was also saved when she was paralyzed in bed. Unfortunately, the other party did not know that this rescue was the beginning of the destruction of the Feng family's foundation. If the karma could not be appeased, it would also implicate the person who saved Feng Fei he. This person must be closely related to the Feng family's fate. So now when Qiao Jin saw Arzu, there was a faint trace of grey aura between his eyebrows. After all, for the Feng family, the appearance of grey aura was already something wrong. This family's fate was borrowed. Once Qiao Jin's karma invaded, the consequences of the backlash would be much more serious. This was not something that could be smoothed out by borrowing luck. Now it was just grey aura. Karma was slowly invading. Once it expanded, the entire Feng family would not be able to escape decline. They now suspected Qiao Jin, and their suspicion was indeed correct. But if they wanted to attack Qiao Jin, it would speed up the process of decline. The other party now sat down, ignoring the fearful and respectful gazes of the people around him. He looked around, and his gaze wandered in the center of the scene. Obviously, he was looking for someone. When the crowd dispersed, he naturally saw Qiao Jin. Because Qiao Jin was staring at him. That gaze was faint and quiet like moonlight. It was as if he did not feel anything. About a few seconds later, he felt a little cold in his heart. He had never been stared at with such a gaze, so this target was immediately found. Zhu looked at Qiao Jin, and his face gradually became gloomy. As Qiao Jin expected, he was an array master. His level was too low, and he could not see through Qiao Jin. Based on his experience, he thought that he would at least be able to sense something from everyone he saw. However, he couldn't sense anything from Qiao Jin. So after the gloominess, he was a little probing and sizing up. After reaching this position, no one would be so stupid. If he couldn't see the problem, it could only mean one of two things. Either it was too ordinary, or it was too mysterious and powerful. But to him, it was impossible for Qiao Jin to be ordinary. If Qiao Jin was really ordinary, he would be able to see something. But if he couldn't see anything, it would be a little strange. She was very young, like a little girl who stood aloof from worldly affairs. Zhu's eyes gradually narrowed. Feng Fei he stayed by his side and whispered, Zhu, do you see anything? Zhu's eagle-like eyes looked at Feng Fei he, causing her body to tremble. What can you tell? Feng Fei he, her face was a little pale. She quickly lowered her head and didn't dare to speak again. In reality, he was already cursing madly in his heart. Damned old man, just you wait until she gets that kind of power. It wasn't as if she didn't have to pay a price for being cured. Thinking of the price of being saved, Feng Fei his face was deathly pale. Her fingernails dug into her palms. It was probably because of the extreme pain, but she could still smile. When she looked at Qiao Jin again, his calm eyes happened to look over. When their eyes met, she saw a sea of clarity. This made her feel even more jealous. He had already done such a terrible thing. He had taken drugs and tried to commit suicide. But now, he could still look so calm. He was really good at pretending. Chapter 185. Of course, Qiao Jin could see the jealousy in Feng Fei his eyes. And because he could see it, he clicked his tongue. Her rank was too low. In the past, she wouldn't even live for 3 days. With this performance, it was no wonder that she was not valued in the Feng family. If it didn't affect the Feng family's fortune and make them suspect that something was wrong, Qiao Jin felt that the 2 array masters of the Feng family probably didn't want to save Feng Fei he. Maybe they even thought that Feng Fei he was a hindrance. Of course, if they knew the truth in the end, they would really feel that Feng Fei his existence was a hindrance. Feng Fei his birthday banquet went well. Although Zhu was staring at Qiao Jin, he couldn't let others see it openly. It was just that there was a high probability that he would send someone to monitor him later, like the spirit group. Qiao Jin didn't care at all. After the banquet, when everyone returned home, Qiao Jin saw Mu Zhenming supporting Qiao Fei. Her face was red, and she began to talk nonsense. She even began to giggle. Mu Zhenming hugged her very tightly, and his face was a little gloomy. When they got in the car, he let Qiao Fei sit in the back, let Mu Zilian and Qiao Jin watch her, and let Mu Zichu sit in the front passenger seat. Mu Zichu frowned a little. Mom drank. Mu Zhenming got in the car and began to fasten his seatbelt. I didn't pay attention when we were talking. She took a glass of wine and thought it was juice. Who knew that it was mixed with alcohol? She drank it and became like this. Qiao Fei couldn't drink. Her alcohol tolerance was very poor. Basically, she would blush after eating liqueur chocolate. Not to mention drinking directly. Qiao Jin sat in the back and stared at Qiao Fei silently. He saw Qiao Fei lying on Mu Zilian's shoulder happily cooking a duck. She even struggled and said, I'm not drunk. At the same time, he was counting happily. She pointed at Mu Zhenming with a serious expression. Ignoring the abnormal blush on her face, she said, a duck. Mu Zhenming. He then pointed at Mu Zichu, 2 ducks. He then pointed at Mu Zilian. 3 ducks. Its delirious eyes fell on Qiao Jin. It seemed to be at a loss. 4. You don't seem to be a duckling. Qiao Jin's expression was serious. He held Qiao Fei's hand and asked seriously, Fei Fei, are you crazy? Everyone, don't you know who's the crazy one in the family? Qiao Fei misheard and let go of Qiao Jin's hand. I'm not drunk. Drunk people are all like this. Qiao Jin looked at Mu Zhenming. There seems to be something wrong with Feifei's brain. Send her to the hospital for a checkup tomorrow. Mu Zhenming was speechless. You're like this when you're drunk. Are you crazy? Qiao Jin, oh. Mu Zhenming, he drove in silence. She was just saying it casually. Who knew that after Qiao Fei let go of her hand, she suddenly started crying. Hubby, what should I do? Jin is the granddaughter of old Master Ji. I don't dare to tell anyone. Burp. The three Mu father and son, Qiao Jin. The car suddenly fell into a strange silence. Mu Zhenming suddenly braked the car. He turned around and looked at Qiao Fei in disbelief. Feifei, what did you say? Mu Zilian was so shocked that a goose egg could be stuffed in his mouth. Mu Zichu was also a little uneasy. Qiao Fei didn't know what she said at all. She started crying after shouting that sentence. After crying for a while, she burped and then fell asleep in Mu Zilian's arms. Tonight was destined to not be peaceful. Chapter 186. After returning home, Qiao Jin attended an emergency meeting that did not include Qiao Fei. It was mainly because she was drunk. After Mu Zhenming brought her back to her room and settled her down, he came downstairs and said that he wanted to talk to them about this. Even if Qiao Fei was drunk, she would not speak nonsense. Since she said this, it meant that it was true. Qiao Jin also heard it. No wonder Mu Zhenming had been feeling that Qiao Fei was preoccupied these past 2 days. It was also a reason why she did not come out for dinner when old Master Ji was around that day. Mu Zhenming sat at the head of the table and pinched the bridge of his nose with his fingers. He looked at Qiao Jin and asked, "Did you hear what your mother said in the car?" Qiao Jin nodded and said, "I heard it. I know what she said. I was the one who told her." Mu Zhenming, Mu Qilian originally wanted to drink some water to calm down his shock after hearing the news, but this time, he almost spat out the water. In the end, he accidentally choked and started coughing violently. Mu Zichu looked at Qiao Jin and was a little confused. "You knew? How did you know?" Qiao Jin had been in the Mu family for so long and had not interacted much with others. Moreover, it had been so many years. When she was adopted by Qiao Fei, she was just a baby. How could she know about her biological parents? How did she know? Qiao Jin raised his hand and rubbed his thumb. "I got it from fortune-telling." Everyone, they felt that this conversation could not continue. Mu Zilian felt that he could not drink his saliva anymore. Otherwise, he might choke to death. Mu Zhenming rubbed his brows again and said to Qiao Jin nicely, "Qiao Jin, you can't speak carelessly. There's no evidence for this kind of thing. It's just a rumor. Besides, it's Grandpa Ji. Grandpa Ji and Grandpa Ji are very good friends. If he heard this, he would be unhappy. I didn't say anything wrong." Qiao Jin only concealed his true identity, but he wouldn't hide anything about such trivial matters. He casually repeated what he had said to Qiao Jin that day. Thus, the entire Mu clan once again fell into a deathly silence. For this kind of thing, if you say that it's a fortune teller, it's too unconvincing. Mu Zhenming looked at Qiao Jin and reminded him, "The Ji family will do a full body checkup every year. If there's anything wrong with that child, the Ji family would have discovered it long ago." No matter how powerful Qiao Jin's biological mother was, it was impossible for her to hide the truth from a child who was not related to her by blood. In this way, Qiao Jin's suggestion of swapping would not be valid. Qiao Jin smiled. "I didn't say that the child wasn't his." Mu Zilian, "Fuck, I'm interested now. It's too complicated." As soon as he finished speaking, Mu Zichu knocked him on the head. At this moment, Mu Xiangshan came back in his overcoat. Even though he was walking with a walking stick, it was just for show. When he came back to the living room, he saw that his family members were all gathered together, which was a rare sight. They even came back earlier than him. Mu Xiangshan narrowed his eyes. "What are you all doing here? Why are all of you here?" Mu Zhenming was very busy. Except for the day when Mu Xiangshan came back, it was basically impossible for him to appear at the Mu clan's dinner table on time. Although they were attending a banquet tonight, they were all gathered together after coming back. There was only tea on the table. It was obvious that they were chatting. Mu Xiangshan's face instantly darkened. You're talking behind my back. Everyone. Chapter 187. In the silence, Musilian whispered to Musichu, Grandpa is a little overconfident. Musichu, Mu Xiangshan walked over and glared at everyone. If you have something to say it in front of me. Why do you have to say it behind my back? Are you ashamed? Everyone. Mu Zhenming rubbed his temples again. He felt physically and mentally exhausted in this house. Dad. He sighed softly, as if he was carrying too much burden. The topic we're discussing has nothing to do with you. Mu Xiangshan straightened his neck. I don't believe it. Musilian agreed happily. Grandpa, it's really not. If we're talking about you, we've already talked about it in the past. Mu Xiangshan's face darkened. Mu Zhenming waved at him. Just in time. Dad, sit down. We're talking about Qiao Jin. We need you to know. Mu Xiangshan walked over to Mu Zhenming. What's the matter? She failed the exam? Everyone. Qiao Jin smiled slowly. She hasn't taken the exam yet. Mu Zhenming gave the main seat to Mu Xiangshan. After Mu Xiangshan sat down, he glanced at Qiao Jin from the corner of his eyes. Looking at you, I knew you wouldn't pass. How embarrassing. Mu Zhenming sat down beside him again and said helplessly, Dad. Mu Xiangshan didn't like Qiao Jin no matter how he looked at her, but Mu Zhenming couldn't do anything about it. Qiao Jin's matter wasn't a small matter, especially when it involved Old Master Ji. After weighing the pros and cons, Mu Zhenming told Mu Xiangshan about it. Isn't this nonsense? Mu Xiangshan's eyes widened when he heard this. He slammed the table. There's no evidence. How can you prove it? He then looked at Qiao Jin. How can you be the daughter of the Ji family? Ji Qiue's wife gave birth to a son. Ji Qiue was Ji Ping'an's eldest son and Qiao Jin's biological father. Of course, Mu Xiangshan would not believe such a bizarre thing. Qiao Jin took a sip of water and said calmly, I'm telling you. It's up to you whether you believe me or not. I don't care if you want to do a test to verify my identity. I'm just informing you of a possible hidden danger. After all, Feifei doesn't want me to go back. Hidden danger. Musichu caught the key point in her words. If you are really the daughter of the Ji family, you can recognize your ancestors, but you can also continue to live with us. How is that a hidden danger? Qiao Jin did not say anything. Mu Zhenming and Mu Xiangshan's faces sank at the same time. Musilian was a little curious. What kind of expression is that? My brother is right. If Qiao Jin is really the daughter of the Ji family, she can go back and recognize them. After all, they are her biological parents, aren't they? What are you doing? Mu Xiangshan scolded Musilian, don't talk nonsense here. He stood up and looked at Qiao Jin. What kind of place is the Ji family? It has nothing to do with you at all. Don't have such messy thoughts. They only have one son. He looked quite angry and turned to leave with a flick of his sleeves. Mu Zhenming looked at his stunned son and then at Qiao Jin. He sighed. Grandpa didn't mean that. If Qiao Jin is really the daughter of the Ji family, she can't go back. Musilian and his brother were still puzzled. Why? How could there be a family where the biological daughter couldn't go back? You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.